Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 259. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, bangarang.
Connor is also here, or back, or something to that effect.
Was I not here last time?
I think you were.
No, I wasn't. No.
Connor doesn't even know what day it is.
I really don't. Until like an hour ago, I had no idea it was Saturday.
Yes. Yeah, Connor wasn't here for the last episode, otherwise known as the good old days. So welcome to the show. It's a DC Comics podcast. We get together.
Real quick.
Yes.
I just noticed on Skype there's now an option for me to raise my hand. What happens if I hit that button?
Oh, I see it.
I think I'll just give you a big hand emoji on the screen.
Oh, please try it.
No, I don't want to be the reason that the thing gets messed up.
I'll try it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
There it says it raises its hand. Okay.
It doesn't actually do it on, like, because there's a love heart one where it comes up on your face, like it comes up over your face. That was just more of an outline.
Yeah, that's this one here.
That's not showing on the.
I don't know how to turn it off
on the episode.
Hey Connor, that's why I didn't want to touch buttons. So I'm glad you're.
Yeah. Last time Matt touched buttons, he was stuck with a dodgy background for 3 months.
Yeah.
Honestly, the idea of Connor having a digital hand raised that I will never ever address and actually let him ask his question is kind of funny to me.
Yeah. Pete is the Snape to Connor's Hermione. Mr. Ryan, put your hand down. You insufferable know-it-all.
This is the first time Connor's ever been compared to someone in Harry Potter that's not one of the Weasleys.
Yeah,
that's true, actually.
I mean, we all know Hermione's the best anyways, so, I mean, Connor, take that as a compliment.
I did.
Yeah.
She's no Luna, but, I mean...
You'd say that.
Yeah.
Yes, Harry Potter nonsense. This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about the DC books we read this week, and this week it's actually quite a hefty list. Firing on all cylinders they are this week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Infinite Frontier issue 1, the sort of the next event or kickstart to this new era from DC. We also have Checkmate issue 1, Detective Comics 1038, Superman 32, Action Comics 1032, Wonder Woman 774, Robin issue 3, Batman Superman 19, Batman Reptilian issue 1, and Connor's got a Patreon book as well. Have I missed anything? I feel like there was so much in there.
It.
No,
Yes.
Did you say Robin? I'll be honest, I stopped listening after a while.
I did say Robin. Yes, I did say Robin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah.
I minus one of those books, and we're gonna find out which one as we go.
I feel like there's one that it should be, although you'll probably have picked the wrong one because you're weird.
We will see.
Because we made the choice on the show last week not to do Mr. Miracle, just because we saw the list of books, it was like,
yeah. And I let Connor know on Twitter just in case, because he was maybe.
Don't tell him these things. Let him.
You already told me.
He already told him.
I know, but it's funnier. It's funnier.
I was tweeting because I was looking at the list of books, and I was like, I don't know if I read issue 1. I know I was missing that week, and I don't remember if I read it and caught up, or if I just left it till later. And I checked. I read it. I just don't remember at all anything in it. There's sometimes you'll open the next issue of comic, you'll have a vague I'm not really sure what happened last time.
I remembered it. It's just I wasn't motivated for 2 on such a. If this was last week, I might have read it, but
For sure.
On a loaded week, no. One of the ones that Pete listed, I did not read because of time. So. You guys will see which one that is.
I mean, you read 9 books instead of 10. No, I don't think anyone's going to give you too much shit for the.
No.
Still read more than me.
Yeah. Well.
Well, you read the least.
I don't mind Bendis, Connor. So I don't.
Hey, that's not what your Twitter says.
Well, I don't like certain book, but I don't. It's not a grand thing. Do we have any news, or can I tell a quick story?
There's one bit of news, and everyone's favorite segment.
News.
Everyone's favorite segment, of course, first is how we always start the show now.
Yeah.
So we will start off with ComiXology.
Just like going to therapy, I initially fought it. Now I just go with it.
That's a smart play. Smart play here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, ComiXology top 10 at the time of recording, which is the usual Saturday time this week. Marvel have the top 3 books. Unfortunately, they're dominating.
How many of them are X?
All of them.
No. Number 1's Darth Vader, issue 13.
Oh, shoot.
That's a pleasant surprise.
I don't think we can stretch that. Pleasant. I don't know if I'd say pleasant. All right. It's
Matt would agree with me.
I'll get there.
cynically expected, to be honest. But number 2 is Sword issue 6, which I wouldn't realize was an X book, except for the fact that it's got a big X in the O. So
Yeah,
it's an X book.
It's an X book.
Yeah, I mean, but Sword as an organization did spin out of Morrison, right?
Sounds about
out of
right.
his X run. Yeah, it was either Morrison or Whedon.
I think it was.
So
I remember it in the Whedon stuff. I don't remember.
yeah, I
I
remember
mean-
Abigail Brand. So
Yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily, because I think you can have a Sword book without looking at it and going, that's an X
Yeah.
book. You know, it could just be
true.
You can.
Just the
But
steal.
this
So-
one is explicitly an X book.
It is.
Alpha
Yeah.
Flight, X book or not an X book? If it were to exist,
X book.
yeah. But
Yeah.
it could not be an X book, right?
If it's
I
all
think
yeah.
that's Marvel's game right now.
if all the members are not mutants, then yes, it could be a not X book.
Right. But I'm just saying that's where Marvel is right now. It's either Star Wars or maybe an X book.
Number 3 is Way of X issue 3.
Definitely an X book.
Definitely an X book, yes. So number 4 is a DC book.
Ooh,
What is
ooh.
it?
Oh,
Batman.
Checkmate.
Between Batman. Well,
Just because it's not out this week doesn't mean it doesn't sell a shit ton every week.
well, it's Detective Comics, but I'm not accepting the generic yelling of Batman
it.
to count for that.
Last time you told me always guess Batman.
But see, I went against that.
Whatever
with a
the
big event
Bat
style
book is that week, you fool. Look, I am operating on no sleep right now, okay? So
That means usually I try to get in and out, but now that Pete's not here for it, oh boy,
What do you mean I'm
Connor.
having fun?
I feel like my
Yeah,
temper, particularly with Connor, especially,
Yeah.
is going to be a bit shorter today. So buckle in, everyone. Buckle in.
It's fine. I'll be distracted by the football.
Detective
Yeah.
Comics 1038 is number 4. Number 5 is Wolverine issue 13. And number 6 is Amazing Spider-Man 69. So the top 6 not looking good for DC. One out of 6. However,
Right.
luckily, the rest of the top 10, the next 4 are all DC books. Infinite Frontier, Conan next, and then
Yeah.
Justice League, and then Superman in Action round out the top 10. Then there's one non-DC book, and then the 4 after that are all DC books again. So 11 through 15 are all DC. That's
Shotgun method.
Yeah,
Can I-
Robin, Wonder Woman, Checkmate, and Batman Superman.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Can I throw in a sales related fact that hasn't got any hard numbers, but it's sales related?
If I say no, you're still going to do it. So just do.
That's true. So this is from Tynan's newsletter. Source of a wealth of information, frankly, at this point. It's talking about the orders for Nice House on the Lake. The second printing went to Final Order Cutoff this past week of issue 1, and the second printing sold more than has more orders than the total projections for what DC had, their internal projections for the first issue.
Wow.
And it's outselling that on just the second printing alone, which means we're probably safe to get a season 2 when that happens.
Unless they
Wow.
spectacularly tank somewhere in the middle of the run.
No,
Not-
but I
not
do think that
impossible,
Tynan's
but-
name now, like, I know my shop ordered a lot of them based off of his name, right? And it's
Yeah.
not even from Batman. It's because of Something Killing the Children. I guess that was a real hot book at my shop.
It's a hot book
So-
at every shop.
Yeah, so-
It's selling tons.
So that's why they did that. So, but the second printing, that's pretty.
Yeah,
wow.
when the second printing is outselling your internal projections for the total, that's
Mhm.
impressive. So yeah, I mean, I guess grain of salt because it's his newsletter saying this. It's a little bit braggy, but he has no
Well,
reason to lie. I guess. Really.
No, but it's also Tynan, and he's probably just excited to be like, "Hey, look, this little thing that I didn't think anybody would like."
It's selling fantastically, and everyone's
Yeah.
loving it. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
There's one piece of news this week that I saw, which is a delay for Batman and Catwoman, which has been bumped back a little bit. Issue 6 has been bumped back to August 17th. Technically, issue 7 is still scheduled for July, but obviously it's going to get pushed as well once they get
Mhm.
around to actually updating the numbers. But not a huge shock, I guess.
This is because of the not annual issue, but the kind of special that they were doing. That was supposed to be John Paul Leon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually been pushed till like December. I'm assuming he didn't finish it in time, and they're either figuring out what to do with it, getting other artists to finish off, or what.
Yeah, he definitely started it because one of the I don't know if it was something they put in the book, in the books when they did their in memory page or whatever, or if it was something they posted online. But there was definitely something about his art featuring in the upcoming Batman Catwoman book still. So clearly he did do some of it, and we're going to get to see it. I mean, imagine how shit it would be if they got somebody to just read it all.
I believe that was supposed to be out in July or something, but that's been pushed to like December, which kind of makes, because I think it is Christmas themed anyway. So I guess that was their logic. But I assume it's just had a bit of a knock on effect on everything.
Yeah, I mean, technically the whole book's Christmas themed. It's all set at Christmas, so
I think that issue in particular was something they was talking about it being Christmassy.
So, I mean, yeah, still big. Wow, what's banging on the desk? What's...
Told you, it's my plastic mouse.
It's just trying to irritate you, Pete.
Apparently,
I'm not trying. I'm actually cleaning my glasses, and without my glasses, I have zero depth perception. So I thought I was farther away than I actually was. So.
All right. Well, that's all I had news-wise. Just the one book delay. Nothing major. We got I mean, obviously we had solicits last week. They were merciful and gave us them early this month.
So this week.
I know this week would have been a nightmare if they give us solicits this week. So that was merciful. But yes, you had a story you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, just real quick. Me and the missus took a drive yesterday. Took a day off from work, and we went out to St. George. It's one of my favorite. It's in Utah. I should be more particular with the people that don't know the regional geography. Like a little 2.5 hour drive. Went and got coffee at my favorite coffee roaster. But on the way there, we passed a billboard that said Ernie's 2, the world's best chicken strips. So I was like, well, we have to stop, right? They are the world's best. So we go get our coffee, we eat a little lunch. We're like, oh, we'll just grab a couple chicken strips just to say we tried the world's best. We pulled into a place, which I thought was weird because there's a gas station outside, but Google said this is where Ernie's was. Apparently, guys, the world's best chicken strips are at a gas station outside of St. George, under a heat lamp.
I have. My first question is, why did you believe that there was any validity to this billboard?
Well, one of those
you never
billboards has got to
know.
be correct.
Well, you never know with these little towns, right? Like, it might actually have like a legit like kitchen, down home, whatever. But no, this billboard was a liar. This was a gas station.
I mean, I'm pretty sure most billboards that say "world's best of anything" are just throwing that on there.
One of them is bound to be right.
Yeah, right. So we walked in. It looked super sketch. Said, made a very loud, "Oh, it looks like we forgot something in the car," which I don't know why we did. They don't care. And promptly got out of there. Not trying.
You didn't even try the chicken strips. How do you know they weren't amazing?
Because when you walked in, it smelled like grease. That was the first smell. And I don't know where they were frying them. It was a gas station.
Who said they were fried?
Well, what was the grease smell?
Oil?
Yeah, I know. So, yeah. So that was my little. I had to call my brother immediately because if that was just me and him, not me and my wife, we definitely would have been trying gas station chicken strips.
I'd have tried it.
Right, and so, yeah, that was the nice little relaxing gas station chicken strip story that I have to get out of my system and tell somebody.
I think it's a lot more underwhelming when you didn't try the chicken strips.
But I wish I had taken a picture because it looked like something out of a horror comic. I kid you not. So, yeah. That said, if we have any listeners that are ever from that neck of the woods, have you tried Ernie's 2 chicken strips? Apparently, apparently they brew hot coffee all day, which don't most gas stations. I don't know why that was also on the billboard, but
just in case you didn't realize.
Yeah. So, Fun times.
Also, what's with the name? Ernie's 2. Is it Ernie's 1? Is this the second location?
It's Ernie's TOO.
Oh,
as
okay.
in Ernie's as well. And yeah.
I don't know if that's better or worse.
I don't know either. There's so much, every layer, every time you peel back a layer, it's there. But yeah, as soon as we got out of the car, the immediate smell of grease outside, and then you walk in, it's double that.
This is sounding more and more like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre style.
Thank you, Pete.
Well,
that's why we got out of there.
We'll stop at this beer, and you just walk in, and there's a bunch of like old smelly men, and
you did hear about the story, not the Ed Gein story, but there's an actual story that Texas Chainsaw is based off of. Like Ed Gein's in there a little bit, but there was a guy who used to kill people traveling through Texas and then serve them up as barbecue. And that's why we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Sounds like Texas, I suppose.
I was my exact thought.
Yeah. So, good time. So, yeah, we got out of there. But, hey, River Rock Coffee Roasters, guys, if I know they do online orders. Maybe not for you two. International's real.
Yeah, I doubt it.
But I'm going to put them over here. Really fine coffee.
Mm-hmm. Matt was determined to tell that story on the podcast.
I've just been drinking espressos, so you know.
Yeah, gotcha.
Nothing fancy.
Yeah, to me, espresso is fancy.
Yeah, it's the Nespresso pod capsules things.
Right. Yeah, but you know, I've been making cold brew. I've been iced coffee. It's getting hot here, 110 on average.
I'd say it's getting hot here, and it is, but in comparison, it's not.
Yes. Yeah. Hold on. What's that in your weird?
Dangerous is what it is in our correct measurement.
So right now it's 100 here.
Well, let me just say, nowhere should ever be 100. That just sounds horrific.
Let's see, and see that is 38 degrees in your weird.
That is literally, I'm not exaggerating here. That is literally hotter than this country has ever been in any record.
And this is a nice.
Obviously, you go back far enough in climate change or whatever, and that's obviously not true. But since records began, like early 1900s, that is hotter than it has ever been.
Conrad would melt here.
I really would.
Yeah.
Oh, should it? Air freight him in first class.
Okay. Oh man. Anyways, I hope you're enjoying your coffee, Connor. I remember when you were like, "Coffee's disgusting," and now, a mere 6 months later, you're making espresso pods.
I mean, coffee is disgusting. Like, I stand by that.
No,
I have trained myself to like it now. That's what you gotta do. You just gotta drink it enough.
Yeah. It really is a cult. I really feel like I've spread, this.
It's just that, like, at work every day. Like, well, I guess I'll get my double espresso.
Are you drinking Works coffee?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if we know where you work. I don't want to put it all out there, but I don't like their coffee.
I don't like the black coffee. The espresso's fine.
Okay.
Mm.
It's not like the best.
You guys got espresso there?
Yeah. Fresh beans.
Oh man.
Espresso machine.
Wow. Dang, here
it's like a bean to cup machine, but it's proper stuff.
How do we get Pete to drink coffee? Because I don't know if he's still on his 4 Red Bulls a day kick. But
for the sake of his heart,
I have literally never had more than 1 energy drink in the same day.
Really?
Let's just factually get that out of the way right now. I have never done that.
How did you? So when I stopped drinking energy drinks, it's because I was drinking 2 or 3 a day. And yeah, now I've just switched to coffee. Now I'm
I feel guilty for having 1 per day. I think that feels like too much. So
I used to, and then there's this caffeine rebound effect that 1 would make me feel tired. So how do you not feel tired? You drink another one. And this might be the closest to drug addiction I've ever been. I was drinking Monsters.
There was a point where I was full on addicted to caffeine. I know that, like, because I would drink energy drinks, like tea obviously has them in, like Coke and Pepsi have caffeine in, and that would be like exclusively what I drank, to the point where I could not sleep without caffeine in my system.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Well, this has been absolutely fascinating.
It is.
But I think it's time we talk about some comic books.
There we go. Have fun editing that, friend.
Yeah, friend. Doesn't even know your name.
Can't remember if it was David or not.
All right. Infinite Frontier, issue 1, Joshua Williamson and Xermanico. Start of the... Well, I mean, it is a start. I mean, there was an issue 0, but the issue 0 was more like a collection of, prologue things for various books rather than just this one. So...
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say right now, the most exciting thing in this book was the first panel.
Oh, I disagree.
No. When it opens with Worlds Will Live, and you're like, oh, okay, that's the story we're setting up here.
Yeah, of course. But I like to think this whole book was exciting. But
no, the whole book's good, but that's the most exciting.
As a continuity nerd, seeing stuff being pulled in from the rest of the DCU, that's very exciting because I felt over the past, I mean, Metal notwithstanding, everything's been kind of self-contained. We haven't had these big, huge stories, which is kind of nice. So when one does happen, it feels special. So to hear them, to hear people talking about, A-Day in Gotham and whatnot, like that's really cool in the pages of this book. Wasn't expecting that.
It feels nestled in current continuity for sure.
Yeah. Also, on a bit of the hyperbolic side, can Xermanico just draw everything from now on, please? Because
I definitely wanted to draw more Lantern stuff.
Yeah, I love Xermanico's art.
I do as well, but in particular, he draws a construct of a train, and as it comes through, it's hitting someone. It says "wham" on the front of the train, and that effect is fantastic. I want more of that stuff in my Green Lanterns.
Yep.
So yeah, the book starts with a rocket ship, not unlike Superman's,
very similar in fact.
Crash landing on Earth, although not the main Earth, as we'll very quickly find out.
We'll find out, yeah.
But when the ship opens up, it's actually a version of Batman that is inside. Not a baby Batman, a full Batman.
No.
And it's seemingly Flashpoint Batman.
It looks Flashpoint-esque. Yeah, it looks Flashpoint-esque.
Well, you guys didn't automatically get those Flashpoint Batman?
I did, yeah. Like,
well, no, I mean,
the red logo was like... last I remember a Flashpoint Batman, though, he was not in a great place.
Yeah, it looks Flashpoint-esque, but I wasn't necessarily just assuming it was Flashpoint Batman. There was still room for swerves and interpretations at this point.
But I also love that the kindly couple that find him automatically go, "That's not our Batman," and I was like, "Okay, this is DC. This is what they do well." That was great.
And as soon as they say called Calvin, I'm like, "Oh, okay, we're on Earth 23." Before we even get to the bottom, it's like, "Okay, I know where we are."
Yep.
Yeah, it establishes itself very quickly. It's kind of the focal mystery. I kind of dig. Obviously, there's a lot of kind of crisisy talk in the next couple of pages, but it's basically just taking something from JSA. And one of the early things in the JSA run from Johns was the extant stuff and like the JSA having to fight him. So kind of starting kind of effectively feels like the first proper like Alan Scott included story and a form of the JSA existing in present day DC in a long time, starting with kind of just the end of like a fight with Extant, as if he was up to no good again. Yeah, we've been here, we've done this before. You don't have to see the whole thing. But
I do love what gets you there. It's the map of the multiverse, and then it pinpoints on Earth 0, right? And then you see the New Justice satellite. I just like how it zooms in on this to the point where you have Extant there. It's really good visual storytelling.
Yeah. So this is kind of like the book's kind of in sections, I would say. We have this stuff with Alan where he meets Obsidian. They're talking about Jade a little bit. They're not sure where she is. She's not shown up for their meeting. And they're referring to things that have came up recently. They talk about Dark Knight's death metal a little bit. They talk about Alan coming out. So all the stuff that we have been reading in recent, these little stories that have been popping up here or there in various anthology books, all relevant, all in continuity. You feel a little bit rewarded for keeping up with everything to an extent. But as they're going to the old JSA headquarters, there was a green explosion, which makes them freak out a little bit because they think Jade might be inside, and then questions where she is. From there, we cut to Paris, and I live for this shit. I don't know why, but for some reason, like going back to like Bones and him sort of running the DEO, and like and in particular here recruiting Chase to like come and like help run it. And
you like Director Bones like I like Guy Gardner. Instantly, you're happy when you see him.
I mean, I would never want to read a Bones book, though. I would never want a book that's about him.
That's because he hasn't got the charisma of Guy Gardner that can carry a book.
Yes, he has some. I agree.
But I see. No, that's all. You make the argument that's all Guy Gardner has is charisma, and that's part of the problem. But with Bones, I like him. But like when you're like, oh, this is the stuff I really like. Him trying to recruit Chase back to the DEO. I get it.
He's just such a... I don't know, there's a very pulpy quality to his character and just his place in the DC universe that just appeals to me for some reason.
Well, and I love that how she talks to him. He's like, do you remember what it was like before the world got so weird? She's like, says the man with a skull for a face.
I mean, the big thing... there's two big things about this scene. One is that he shows her something that effectively, because I don't see this as a blackmail thing, because I think you could read it that way, but I think this feels like, no, he's shown her something that is convincing her she has to get involved because it's such a big deal or it's so scary or whatever. That's how I read her reaction of, shit.
As did I, because we know of her with the DEO and stuff, so whatever it is, like she's like, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore. However, what he showed her automatically pulled her in, so much to the fact that she didn't want the rest of her dessert.
Yeah.
Right? She's like, I'm not hungry anymore. So it's big. I also like to, and this is part of the, I feel like Checkmate coming out late because that was supposed to be out last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get that there, that all of these organizations are gone, but now Bones is starting this up.
Yeah, he's basically restarting the DEO.
Right. Which I like because now that's a fresh start with the DEO and what it can be and stuff.
I think if you've been starting to read DC recently, or even just as recent as the start of Rebirth, which is when we started the podcast, this is kind of a relatively nice thing to just sort of rather than having all this weird continuity, like it's a fairly fresh kickoff. The other big thing in this scene though that I think is very important is the idea that at least a good portion of the general public now know what a multiverse is and now are aware that there's multiverse shenanigans going on, and even are aware that in some capacity that reality has at some point been reset and can perhaps even remember elements. And maybe that's why it's spreading, because we get characters later who seem to be more aware than others. Others just think it's a conspiracy, they think it sounds crazy, but some characters seem to have like a feeling like they can actually kind of sense it.
Yeah. Well, and I love, and this is Williamson knowing the characters so well, when Bones' point of view is people shouldn't even know a multiverse exists. Of course, that's what a shady government guy would think, right? Like, he has secrets. That's what he deals in. So, and now the fact that it is, what problems does that lead to? So the fact that he seeded that here, and then we get the whole diner scene later, like that Pete's talking about there.
Because I don't remember this, like, maybe some civilians have become aware of it in the past, but I don't remember any of these crisis-y books ever kind of focusing on the idea that the general public are aware of...
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, worlds will die. That's the Infinite Crisis thing. Those are worlds of people. So, you never think about that on the micro level. It's always the macro superhero. What does this mean for that? And,
Yeah, so then we go to Justice Incarnate, where Thomas Wayne wakes up after being knocked out for a bit. He's not very happy to see anyone. It's not until...
He does not want the delicious carrot juice, apparently.
No, he does not want Captain Carrot near him, period.
No.
To be fair, Xermanico makes Captain Carrot look scarier than I've ever seen him before.
Yeah, but and I like that, though, just because this Flashpoint Batman has never ran into Captain Carrot. So when he wakes up, this gigantic
demented
rabbit
thing,
is staring at him in the face, and he goes, "Whoa, friend!" just as I like his whole vibe here.
He's not into the characters, but I think he is fond of his lobster, just for the record. So yeah, Calvin shows up, President Superman, and kind of explains who they are a little bit. And this verse is a nice little introduction as well. If you haven't read the previous stuff that set up this team, here, Justice Incarnate, we're here to police the multiverse stuff that's going on. And yeah, I actually really liked how this scene ended because Thomas Wayne says, "I need to speak to the Flash," and he says, "Which one?" And he's like, "Barry Allen," and then there's just that comedy beat pause, and then goes, "Which one?"
Which one? Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Which actually does transition neatly into a Barry scene, where Barry is trying to experiment, basically to get to one of the two new planets, right? Earth Omega, as he calls it, later on here, and he basically he's like, oh, if I jump through all these different multiverses very quickly and play with my vibration, I should be able to get there somehow. And sure enough, he does, and he notes that this Earth Omega is kind of strange in that it doesn't seem to have a frequency. It doesn't have one.
There is no vibration.
Yeah. So obviously that's an important plot point, and he finds the dead bodies, of course, that Darkseid left behind at the end of the Zero issue. So
the quintessence.
Yes. Which
you say bodies more.
Well, yeah. The clothes.
Desiccated husks.
The clothes. Well, yeah. There's kind of bodies still.
There is, but bodies is being generous still, given the state of them.
Yeah, I have to admit, I kind of forgot the end of that Zero issue until this page where I saw all the corpses, and I went.
You don't remember us talking about the quintessence, but there's 6 of them, so it's not quite a quintessence.
I mean, vaguely now, but I mean, Matt, that was like 3 months ago.
Barry doesn't question that.
No. But Barry has no thoughts on the matter. He's just wondering what the hell happened here. Who did this? Who was powerful enough to kill these effective gods? And then something weird happens where it's like he flashes through different past versions of the Flash, different continuity, the old art style, the more New 52 one, eventually sort of in present day. And then out walks our modern version of Psycho Pirate.
Yeah, with a big old Omega symbol on him.
Yeah.
The black and the white, like we saw on Darkseid at the end of that Zero issue.
Yeah, definitely teasing some weirdly big stuff. And obviously, the ties between Psycho Pirate and Flash, Barry specifically, and the original Crisis, can't be lost on us here. There's definitely some callbacks to that. This is definitely something that's been written from someone who's grown up with those crises in their mind and is harkening back to the very original one. So definitely not surprising. And it kind of teases at the end that Psycho Pirate's got someone else to go and find. Like, he's not here to torture the Flash. The voice, presumably Darkseid. I mean, it could swerve us and say it's someone else, but at least right now we'd assume this is Darkseid that's speaking to him.
I would, with the Omega and the lettering of it.
Yeah. We cut to this diner, and of course one of the big reveals in the Zero issue was that Roy was alive, and somehow, there was no explanation, he was just around. We assumed, death metal, reset reality, things came back, whatever.
We got a reason now at the end of this scene.
Well, you say that as if we understand it completely. I wouldn't say we do.
No, not saying understand it, but it makes more sense than just, let's just say finger snap back alive. There's more layers to it.
Sure.
And I was not expecting that.
Yeah, well, a lot of this scene focuses on these side characters who are basically debating the existence of a multiverse. This other stranger overhears the conversation and gets in and defends the woman who's saying that there's a multiverse. And Roy is just drinking some coffee and just kind of smirking to himself as he listens to this. But there's one guy who's, bit of a dick and kind of gets really aggressive with it.
And I can't say that the last year didn't have some influence on this dude's vibe.
For sure. This is someone who's yelling at someone for wearing a mask. You can feel it in your veins. Yeah,
but when you think about it too, of course, in a world of superheroes, there are going to be the people that, despite seeing Superman flying, be like, Superman's not real. I was like, well, he just flew through here. No, that's conspiracy. And you're just like, all right, dude, I don't have time for you. So I like seeing this character represented here.
Yeah, and this is, Roy steps in a little bit, but then, of course, there's a big explosion at the wall, and we have these characters coming in looking for him, and
this character, Extract. Terrible name.
Extract, yes. And then there's a bit of a fight, obviously. some blasts, he's saving civilians. But then there's this insane transition where she has Roy pinned down, she's got him at gunpoint, and then the very next page, you just see this giant pure black fist punch this character out of the roof of the building, out of this diner. And then punches all the again, we don't see him yet, we don't see what Roy looks like here, but it's keeping him all off panel. It's all just all the henchmen flying through windows and walls and whatever. And then the final page reveal is I'm going to call this a black and white lantern outfit on Roy, where there's lantern constructs of all of his past versions of, your Teen Titans Roy, your Arsenal, whatever, right? And I say black and white because the symbol's more black lantern style, right? But
however, the energy around him
is white, yeah.
Right. Which then makes me think this is like a cheat that he's got, right? He was dead, but it's almost like the Black Lantern energy and the White Lantern energy are pushing at him, and that's what's brought him back. How he has access to this, who knows? But I'm here for it.
Did anyone else think it was weird him kind of questioning it himself? Like, what have you gotten yourself into now? Like, I don't know, just the actual dialogue of it felt weird. Like, he had no idea he was this lantern.
I don't think he had an idea he was the lantern, though.
Which is fine. But I just think the actual construction of the dialogue of him just kind of standing there asking himself, what have you gotten into now?
Well, I like because when he stirs away, he goes, whoever you are, thanks for the save. So yeah, he definitely doesn't know, So I like, what did he just pull himself up out of the grave one day and dust himself off? Did he, is this like a Jason Todd scenario?
I mean, I get the impression he didn't know how he was back. He just was.
He was, that's what I mean. Because
I guess Matt says, what's his first memory of being back? Was he just there, or does he remember coming back to life? Like, does he remember, like say, getting out of the grave?
Does he even know he was dead?
I think he knows. I think he knows that he died. I think that's why he's not contacted anyone. I think that's why he's keeping his distance, because he, of the shared history with how it ended with Wally, everything else. I think he knows his past. He does know his past. But I mean, if I was to guess, I would say he just popped into existence. He didn't like dig his way out of a grave or anything weird like that. But I mean,
I would have agreed before this reveal, but then I'm thinking, like, black ring energy. That's very much digging yourself out of a grave, right?
Yeah. Well, and the whole life, the whole live.
I mean,
right? Just the white.
Assuming someone didn't dig him up first.
Right, and that's what I mean.
Possible.
Like the Jason Todd scenario. Is this because it reset himself, or the whole universe reset? Right, and that's how we get him, because that's how they explained Jason Todd originally. That it was Superboy Prime punching at reality,
which I think has all been retconned. It was just they threw him in a
Lazarus. Well, now it's Lazarus Pit. Right, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. So like, but they're also talking about people being rebooted, and that's maybe why some people remember and why some don't. That was in the diner scene. That's kind of the context there. So who knows? But yeah, Roy with this lantern energy. Because I don't want to say it's Black or White Lantern. He's like in between.
Yeah, I would say it's both. Because I don't think that's the comparison with that, and then the idea that we have two planets that are kind of like a pair. I don't think it's an accident.
Called Alpha and Omega, which are first and last.
One's called the Elseworld, but yeah, I mean,
the Elseworld, right?
Yeah. But like the idea that we have like two sides of the same coin, effectively, and that's maybe a theme that's going to keep showing up here. So the idea that we have this black and white lantern where both energies are kind of working or coexisting, like life and death do work together, and they kind of do, of course they do.
Well, in life and death, and if dark side represents nothingness, right? And that, I mean, life and death would have to work together, because what is nothingness? Nothingness isn't death.
And to go back to Psycho Pirate's costume, his costume was black and white. Like, it was a black and white outfit. Right.
And then, who we think is Darkseid, but who knows? Psycho Pirate tells Barry, we're on the same side this time.
Yeah, he does. And I kind of believe him, oddly.
Yeah. So if this is what, again, we want to think that it's Darkseid with what looks like the Omega effect and the lettering, but who's to say that it is? And we thought kind of zombie Darkseid was the villain, but what if he's not?
I think the only things we can really say for certainty right now is that the not just because it leads into this scene with the you have to go find someone, but the color scheme with him, the color scheme with Psycho Pirate says that he is definitely who Psycho Pirate's looking for. So there is a connection between whatever they're doing and what he is and how he became this. Or maybe it's not so much how he became this, but because of he's happened to become this, he's now going to be very important in whatever is going to happen going forward, whatever it may be. But everything else is pure speculation at this point until we get the next issue.
Also, when Extract comes out, she seems out of sync, like in between vibrations. Right, like a digital effect, like we saw in Mr. Miracle. So that's interesting. So wherever she's from, it's not exactly.
Yeah, I think in that case, it's probably just that she's coming from another Earth, another another universe, and that's probably just what it's representing.
Probably,
or even just teleporting, even perhaps.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I don't think it's going to have all of the important symbolism that Mr. Miracle had with its effect.
No. Because there's a point where it shows her perspective looking at Roy, and it's filtered through that same effect, and Roy's got like a bubble around him to like.
I mean, I suppose it is possible, given that we associate so many Darkseid things now with that Tom King book, that maybe they are intentionally using something from it to.
I don't actually mean like for Mr. Miracle. I'm just comparing it to that, where you could tell there's a disturbance somehow. Like if it was if this was a filmed thing or animated, the effect on her would stand out versus just in a comic where it's all kind of the same because it's that one dimension. So I don't necessarily mean Mr. Miracle. That was the only thing I could think of that I've seen anything like that, like the visual disturbance. So like if we saw her, she would be glitching in and out or whatever.
I mean, she definitely, her and her group definitely seem like the sort of characters who are traveling through, different dimensions and, going wherever they need to go. So,
and so that diner comes up, Saint Tekla, and so I just looked up Saint Tekla, and I don't know if I can find anything, but it's got to be there. Like, I've read enough Williamson to know now he doesn't do things just because.
This is conspiracy theory, Matt, when it comes to these things. He loves to go down the rabbit hole.
So,
I'm going to Google every word they said in this scene right now.
You laugh, but this is how I take things in. So, but
I mean, dare I say it was a solid first issue that has me excited about what it's doing, where it's going, what the goal is. I like that it's got very different batches of characters. Roy feels very different, but also a nice return to form for a character who has been kind of shit on in recent years. Alan Scott and the JSA have been gone for so long that it's really nice to have him be a central character in one of the plot threads. And then just Incarnate, it's just a really wacky group of characters that are, again, not the mainstream batch. And I'm sure we'll see more of the mainstream batch, and even the one mainstream character we do have in this, which I'd say is Barry, he's used in a way to harken back to the original Crisis, so it's making it feel like it's a big part of, hopefully, something that we look at as the next step in DC's big, larger continuity, where we go, oh, this was the start, the true start of this phase of. I
do wonder what the
next.
Like, we can look at all the previous crises and go, this is what they were fixing, this is what they were setting up. I wonder what it's going to be for this. Like, what is it? What is the outcome?
If I had to guess, it's a new, not necessarily a new status quo, but just going forward, it's setting the table, almost going back to what we were before New 52.
It's possible because it's interesting in the sense that when we talk about these events, it's more about the outcome than it is the story itself. We can include like Flashpoint in that as well. I think it's safe to say it doesn't have the Crisis name, but
it effectively is.
Exactly. It's not about the story itself. Like Flashpoint was a perfectly fine story, but it was the outcome that mattered. That's why it was remembered. That's why it has impact still now, seeing like Flashpoint and Batman. So I do wonder what they're going for with this.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Infinite Crisis before it. Like it's playing. There's a lot of balls in the air that Williamson is juggling. So you could tell he really likes the DC universe, right?
I
Like that's
suppose.
the vibe I get from seeing all of these different characters at play here. And I like to think that this came from an idea he had, not strictly just editorial. Like we have to reset the status quo.
Yeah,
But,
especially since this is probably the least I felt they need to reset anything because because in the recent months, like ever since we have gotten past Dark Knight's Death Metal, it has kind of felt like we have actually reached that balance of this feels like continuity is back and is important, and it feels like the world's shared again, but it still feels like people are doing their own new things and we're getting cool stories. And I've probably had a greater number of titles that I've been extremely happy with than I probably ever have reading single issue DC comics. So, I'm not sure what I even want them to fix, if anything. So, if anything, I would just hope that this is just the event that, while it's starting a little bit later, is more about just, this is the start of Infinite Frontiers era, and this is the big event to go with it.
You don't want to be too worried that they're going to mess something up now and ruin what you've got, that you feel like it's in a good place.
Yeah, and I have no reason to worry really yet. There's nothing. There's no reason to be panicking yet because the current team that are in charge, that are making decisions, who are still relatively new. We only just got rid of Didio like a year ago.
Yeah.
We have no reason to doubt them at this point.
These writers that are kind of shepherding stuff with like Tynan and Williamson. I'd throw. Who else is doing big stuff? That's kind of. I mean, it's really just those two when I think about it.
Those are the two right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are.
Because Taylor's kind of doing his own thing. Same with Philip Kennedy Johnson.
Taylor's kind of in a B tier, and damn it, Matt.
I know. Sorry.
Taylor's kind of in a B tier, and not in quality, certainly not, because I would say I like his work more. But in terms of these two that we're talking about, Tynan and Williamson, are the ones who have been given the reins for the events and the larger scope of things. But Taylor is now getting to the point where he's got several of the big DC books, and he's being trusted with multiple of the big characters.
Right.
He's on, like you said, the next level down with like Ram V, people like that.
Yeah, that's Ram V is who else I was going to kind of bring up, but Catwoman and Swamp Thing are so kind of niche. They don't have like these big overarching, but they do feel important because the stuff going on with Swamp Thing ties into, with what's going on with Ivy. And we know that Tynan has some big plan for Ivy throughout Gotham, right? And then with, also with Catwoman and how that ties in, what they've done with Shoes, and now you tie that into Roy coming back. How's that going to impact anything, if at all?
It does feel as a game plan. It feels like something is being thought out in advance, which is nice.
Right, and I like that. And these are all writers that I really like. And it does feel like when I started reading comics back in like 05, 06, DC had that, for 52, that stable of writers of Morrison, Johns, Rucka, and who's the fourth one?
Wade.
Johns, Rucka, Morrison, and Wade. Yeah, Wade. And I kind of feel like right now they're all working in unison.
It says a lot about that dream team where Wade's the one that you forget.
Just because he's been away from books that I read regularly. Right?
Yeah, I know, but you list that team, you're like, who's the one? Oh, Wade. Yeah, of course.
I mean, if you're telling me that Tynan, Williamson, Taylor, and Ram V are this generation's version of that, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and again, all writers I really like. All these books I would read anyways. Like, I'm not feeling like Catwoman's really the one that I feel like I went out of my way to read just because you guys were like, no, it's really good and it's paid off. But everything else I would be reading normally, just as a DC fan. So, like, again, like you said, it feels like there's this
to be fair with that. To be fair with that, though, if they'd started from issue 1 again, you'd have probably tried it, right? Because let's face it, we all tried Robin, not necessarily because we thought, Damien because a surefire hit. It's just because it's a new issue 1, we'll try it, and then it just turned out, Williamson's actually writing a really fun book.
To be fair, if knowing it was Williamson, we probably would have tried it anyway, even if it was issue 30.
Possibly, but I would argue the reason why Matt probably decided not to just jump on a Catwoman when it was the start of the new one is because it was issue 26 or whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah.
So. And then for me, Ram V was only the writer of Justice League Dark.
So
I enjoyed it.
What we've established here is that Pete now agrees that renumberate issue 1 is a good thing.
I never said it was a good thing. I'm saying Matt was incorrect for not jumping on with the new writer.
So yeah, but if Matt,
the-
who is a big comic book fan who reads all sorts of shit, thought, I'm not going to jump monks. It's in the middle of a run. Well, not in the middle of a run, but it's in whatever number it was, and that, so even on some level, put him off a little bit.
That said, I instantly put Nightwing back on my pull list once Taylor was announced.
Of course,
but
let me counter that point. Let me make this very clear. Nothing what I am saying here is that renumbering from 1 is necessarily what I prefer. I am saying that comic book readers are all wrong. Right? Let me make that clear.
But if the vast majority of comic book readers are wrong, which fine, let's run with that assumption.
I can roll with that.
He said it. He said it. I didn't say it. I didn't say comic book readers are wrong. Everyone eats.
Let's hypothetically run with yes, comic book readers.
I mean, not all of them,
wrong.
of course. The ones that agree with me are right, obviously.
Here we go.
Of course.
I mean, I have my own version of that going that stuff sells so well because Batman's in the title.
Well, that's just
that's my go-to. You know?
Let's assume that Pete is correct here and that we are all wrong. Don't you want to just change your system and be wrong to get more sales and then get a bigger audience and not have to worry that Catwoman might get cancelled?
To quote Principal Skinner, no, it's the children who are wrong. It is the children who are out of touch. I know that was a
hypothetical, but I do feel like we're at a point now when it comes to digital comics versus in store that they'll take that gamble and just relaunch, right? So like if there's enough of an outcry about Catwoman being canceled, right? But it was critically enough, right? They had enough digital sales. And then I feel like they'd give him a second shot coming back through.
I do think it's worth noting that just while we're on this tangent, they do renumber the trades pretty consistently now. So like Tiny Batman has been relaunched as, even though he started on the mid 90s or mid 80s. Yeah. That was Batman Volume 1 when they put the trade out.
Well, okay, I'm going to put a cap on this now because this is veering way off the actual book.
So we have other books to get to.
So Forever Frontier is a very good issue 1 if you care about the larger DC scope of things and like basically any of the characters that are included in it, I think. So, I mean, all three of us seem to be happy enough with it, and I mean, to put it in perspective, I like this more than issue 1s of the Metal books, just to compare it to recent events.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I think I had more fun with those issues.
I think there's some high points that were crazy enough in those that I do remember quite fondly, such as the Invisible Chainsaw and whatever, but this I'm more excited about as an actual event, like a DC Comics event. It feels more right.
This might feel better overall as in terms of it being more important and being a quote unquote better story. I had more fun with reading Metal than I did this, for sure.
This doesn't feel like an event. Metal felt like an event, right? This feels like a solid story, right? Whereas Metal was like Snyder going, what big things? Can I have a Batman that's also a T-Rex? Yes. Can I have an invisible chainsaw? Yes. I don't think that's where we're going and stuff like this. I feel this is more pure continuity superhero stuff at play. And I think that's okay. I like the variants.
I do as well.
Yeah. Sure. I would still call this an event for the record, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but this is not a big blockbuster.
It's lower key in comparison to the Metals, which were the last two events, right?
Yeah, and I'll always prefer that. I mean, because of this, kind of like Blackest Night, right? Like, Blackest Night felt like a big event, but, it was big and huge. But that, there's other stories I'm trying to think of off the top of my head, right? That are just solid stories that are also big.
It's funny how this arguably is bigger in scope than what Metal was at the start. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily by the end, but those first issues of Metal where it's just, here's the Justice League doing some crazy shit. Whereas this is, no, JSA, into multiversal Justice Leagues, Flashpoint Batman, all these objectively big things that are spanning with quite a lot of stuff in comparison to, hey, it's Justice League. Yeah, it doesn't feel as grandiose as Metal did. Or they went in with just like, no, we're big and bombastic, and it was the summer blockbuster. Whereas this doesn't have that feeling, even though it is
Right.
definitely an event still.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matt, what are you rating that?
This is a 9. Straight out the gate.
Connor?
That is extreme. I'm at 7.5. I think it's pretty good.
Where do I fit into? I'll go with 8.5. I'm much closer to Matt than I am Connor for sure.
This is the last thing I read this week, and I was very happy because I feel like if this was one of the first things I read, it would have kind of killed the rest of the books for me.
It was the first thing I read. Whenever there's a new event, it's always the first thing I read, unless there's a lead-in book.
Yeah, it was the first thing I
Right.
read too. So there you go. It's Infinite Frontier, issue 1. Checkmate, issue 1. Brian Michael Bendis with Alex Maleev on the art. So, and this does feel like just that. Like, it feels like no time has passed. This feels like it just follows on from where we were at the end of the last Leviathan mini.
And that's my main criticism of it is that. So I read this before I read Infinite Frontier, and they just feel like two separate universes. This feels like we have taken a trip back in the time machine. Even though, did this address stuff that was brought up in Justice League? I feel like it did. I don't know. I read too many comic books this week.
Green Arrow referenced the current, like he referenced the current team. He referenced he's in the team, so it did kind of tie into what's going on. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So that said, right on its own, taking that out, this is the type of Bendis stuff I enjoy.
I didn't have a problem with. I mean, obviously, this feels like it was supposed to come out much sooner, to the other series. But ultimately, I'm not really going to critique the writing that much for that feeling, because I mean, if that's the way it was written and got pushed for whatever reason, maybe it got pushed because the revelations that it's going to get to actually fit better with where we're going, timeline wise or continuity wise, over the next several months. But so we get some teases of the first time Talia met Mark Shaw, who, just to remind everyone, is Manhunter, who turned out to be the leader of Leviathan. You may have forgotten that because it's been a while.
Yeah, and he stole Leviathan from her, which I forgot. Like, I not forgot, but I spaced. So,
sure, yeah. So basically, Damien is investigating a Leviathan ship or plane, and Talia sort of shows up at the same time. They're both investigating and kind of banter a little bit, but they end up getting caught because they end up stowing away in the ship when they're trying to hide, and it leads to them being held captive. Meanwhile, the team of Checkmate, which is now formed, which is our detectives, with the mysterious character of Mr. King being the leader, who none of them, most of them don't really trust him yet. They're kind of questioning him a lot. And
remind me of my theory who this is once we get there, after we talk about the plot.
Okay.
Because I got one.
Am I supposed to remember what your theory is?
No.
Okay, because I don't.
No. It clicked in, but I don't want to sidetrack the plot.
Oh, sure. I get what you mean.
Who they want us to think this is versus who I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't remember, we got Manhunter being the what do we call her? Spencer. Yeah, Kate Spencer.
Kate Spencer.
Yeah, Kate Spencer.
Yeah.
Green Arrow. You got Question, Renee Montoya, Bones, Steve Trevor, and Lois. Right, that is our Checkmate team.
And I do like. So I know Rucka and Bendis are really close. I'm judging by Connor's silence. He didn't read this.
Of course he didn't.
Yeah.
Why the damn hell would I have voluntarily read a Bendis book?
Because of Maleev, and how beautiful the art looks. But anyway, so we know Rucka and Bendis are really close, and I feel this is Bendis reinventing Checkmate, like Rucka's Checkmate, because there's a lot of references. As I reread Checkmate last year, so there's a lot of references to how Checkmate used to run versus how this one's gonna run, which I appreciate. The fact that Bendis goes out of his way through the characters to explain, like when you look at that lineup, each of them is a different chess piece, right? And I'm gonna try to pull it up here.
I'm looking at it right now. I can just tell you if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
but you have two bishops, right? You have a pawn. You have a king and a queen, which I know that was King and Lois. You have a rook, which I think was Trevor. So when you just think of those titles on in the Rucka version, and trying to figure how that fits here, I like that. I like that reevaluation. So
Yeah, Lois gets all questiony on Mr. King, asking him about, how old he is. Are you an alien? Are you not human?
Mhm.
And he insists that he is human. So I mean, we'll keep that in mind.
Mhm.
We cut back to because they're questioning where Tally, because Tally is meant to be there. Tally's meant to be on the team. And it's worth mentioning this thing that happened with Damien was a couple of weeks ago, and then we cut to a week ago when
Mhm.
Shaw's got them kind of like suspended in like bubbles of some kind,
Mhm.
and is bantering off with them, trying to question them, and basically wants her to join him. Says, "Hey, like you could
Yeah.
join. Like we could do great things with this new Leviathan." So on and so on. And Lois is, and of course Talia tells him to piss off. Basically, it's just,
Right.
just a bit. And Damien just keeps repeating, "You're under arrest" over and over again because he's Damien.
Which is pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it comes to Lois at Daily Planet, and she is working late, and someone who works there in the TV production department comes in and says, "Hey, I've got a package for you." And it turns out that she's not worked there for a while, and she basically just starts talking like she's part of Leviathan,
Mhm.
and makes it very clear that Lois is wanted, that Mark's got a message for her, and
Yeah.
you could be a vital part of like this new world and like forming it and whatnot. And we end with her opening the package, and I have zero idea what this thing is. Do you have any clue that's in this box?
I have no idea what that is, but whatever it is, it has to do with her dad's sacrifice. And if I remember, he sacrificed himself so Leviathan couldn't take over.
It could be something you wear around your wrist, because that looks like a strap.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
underneath this core metal part with the red and yellow on it. I don't know, it's weird. But the final page, of course, is that there's a sniper looking.
It's the Winter Soldier.
It actually does look the Winter Soldier.
That's what I was like. Oh no, Buck! What happened, man?
Yeah. Yeah, because even when she holds it up, because I thought she was holding up like a camera in that last page,
No.
but I don't think she is. I think she's just sort of holding it.
I
But
think she's holding it like I got it.
yeah.
So yeah.
So it's all intrigue. It's all setting up that Checkmate exists to battle Leviathan and try and take them down. Do you know?
Yeah.
Conceptually, I like the issue quite a bit. I think the art looks great. I like the chemistry between a lot of the characters. I like the stuff that it's focusing on. I will critique it a little bit and say that for a 6-issue mini, I don't know if this felt like it did much story wise yet.
No, the very little to jump off of.
Which
here. This definitely felt like This felt like an issue 1 of an ongoing, not a mini.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Like, I have no problem with how little story advancement there is per se. Yeah. I actually would be fine with it. If this was a 12-issue book or ongoing, fine. But because there's only 6 issues, I got to the end and went, this is a slower pace than I would expect for a 6-issue book. Is this only the second series in a trilogy of series or something? Because it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like they're going to win by the end of the 6 issues to me, but.
Yeah, Leviathan still seems like a pretty big threat, but then, Bones is part of this, and by the time Infinite Frontier kicks off, he's re-establishing the DEO.
Yeah, I think that.
So,
that definitely means to me that this takes place before Infinite Frontier released.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I had to say. Like, that's my only slight on this is it felt like it should have came out last year. Hot on the heels of Leviathan and all of that stuff. But who knows why? Like, there's a reason they pushed it, and maybe to go with Bendis's Justice League. I don't know.
Doesn't feel like it will. I mean, they feel very separate, but who knows?
Yeah, but who knows at that point? So the whole thing of this King character, right, is in Checkmate. There's the character of King Faraday. He's like spy master. He's kind of Steve Trevor before Steve Trevor, in that he's the governmental figure. He's almost DC's Nick Fury, right? And I feel that that's who Bendis wants us to think this is, right? His name's King. However, we've got a lot of Markovia from Bendis, with Leviathan taking over, them being a rogue nation. How did he take over? Isn't there a royal family there? And if you remember Geoforce, right? He was Prince Brian of Markovia. So now I'm wondering if this is who he is, because that whole conversation with Lois, he says that she says you're a king, that's all I know. I don't know if you're human, not that that's an issue because look who I'm married to. But he goes, I assure you I'm very much a human, right? I feel this is going to be Geoforce. And this whole thing is they deposed him and now he's trying to get his country back. Because when you think about who's been missing from DC continuity and all this stuff, like Geoforce is a pretty major figure in the Outsiders and amongst other, and he's just been gone. Like you look at that Outsiders that's operating right now with Katana and Black Lightning, he's the one that's kind of missing, along with Batman. But Batman's got enough going on, right? So yeah, I'm gonna call it now. This ends up being King Brian of Markovia.
We'll see. I have no strong feelings on who Mr. King is,
Gotcha.
but I don't have any reason to doubt that theory. But yeah, I think if you like the first, Leviathan book that Bendis did, I think you'll be into this issue. It doesn't feel like it's moving quick enough to actually end in 6 issues time, but I mean, we'll see. Bendis has definitely swerved us on that kind of thing before, so it's not entirely impossible. So, all right, Matt, what are you giving Checkmate?
I'm gonna give this an 8. I want to give 7.5, but I can't with Maleev art that's so shadowy and moody and feels perfect for this kind of espionage type stuff. And then you get to the Leviathan set stuff, and it's real bright, and it's kind of counter to what we see the heroes doing.
Yeah.
It's really...
It's almost an ironic touch that the heroes are always in the dark areas, they're always in secret in the shadows, whereas the villains are the ones with the big bright rooms and all that. Yeah.
So, so like it's hard to give for me anything with Maleev art, below an 8. So I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah, or even just something as simple as that in that last page, when Lois is looking out the window, the panel's circular because it kind of mimics a scope.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not like there's like scope lines on it to really like tell you it's a scope that you're looking at. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'll probably agree with the 8. I think it's there's nothing I don't like about it really.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine, and this is why I'm glad. Had I read Infinite Frontier before this, I might have been like, I don't know if Checkmate was that good, but it's fine. Like it's a good read. And if you like Bendis and Maleev, I can't believe you wouldn't be reading this. Like that's a solid team. So they're just doing it at DC now.
Detective Comics 1038, Mariko Tamaki writing with Viktor Bogdanovic on the art. And this is become one of my most anticipated books just on a regular basis from DC. I'm super into what Tamaki's doing with this.
Out of the 2 Bat books, it's the one I look forward to more.
Yeah.
I like what's going on in Batman.
Batman most then.
Yeah. I mean, I still like Batman a lot, but like, I like this just a little bit more.
I feel that way the other way around. I like this a lot, but I definitely like Batman.
Yeah, because we ended with a cliffhanger last issue with Worth, the father, the big guy, the one who brought the rocket launcher to the station, and that badass scene from last issue. So Batman and him are squaring off in the sewers.
He apparently didn't announce that he was Bruce Wayne as Batman last issue.
I kind of get it now in retrospect, the way the conversation continues. It's more just like here, like someone is, as opposed to here, I am Bruce Wayne.
It did not play that way at the time, did it?
No. Also, I like the idea that Mr. Worth is dumb. Like he's made his money the old-fashioned way, and he's a builder. That's what he knows. He's not a tech bro that had to innovate things.
Sorry, did I hear that right? Did Matt just call all builders dumb?
No. However, Mr. Worth isn't he didn't make his money off of his brains, right? He made it off of, as he says here, the old-fashioned way with blood, sweat, tears, and all of that stuff. And so I like how different of an antagonist that is for Bruce. Because for the longest time, we've gotten people that are going to match wits with Batman. I like someone that's just like, no, I'm going to punch you until you don't move anymore.
You want a new Bane.
Not even Bane, because Bane, people forget this, but the original Nightfall, the reason he's able to break Batman is because he, mentally fatigued him first.
He does, but you mean you want the physical threat as well, like not just the you want the big muscle dude who can throw him around a bit.
Right. And Batman has to keep a step up, but he can talk his way out of it if necessary. And
Oh, you makes go, Matt.
so
Makes go. Because I would probably counter that a little bit and say that this guy does not feel like he's anywhere nearly as trained as a character like Bane. He feels like he's got the strength, he's got the build and all that, but he's definitely going to lose in a one-on-one fight as soon as Batman outwits him. But he does have
pure power.
He does have more ammo for his bazooka, and that is a very effective tool in your fight.
And the world's biggest hand cannon.
Yeah, the old Teddy Roosevelt quote, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." All that Mr. Worth got out of that was be the big stick.
Yeah. So from there we cut to Lady Clayface, who's sort of like in the Bat van or whatever it is, whatever she's sitting in.
Man. That sounds terrible, especially with a guy that collects orphans. But
anyway, Huntress is looking. I actually love this connection to the previous scene where Huntress like feels the rumble and looks up at the light shaking, just to sort of like that explosion in the sewer is actually is having a knock-on effect up above. Like people are noticing this.
I was reading this at
fire
work.
A bazooka. That is short range.
Yeah, I was reading this at work on my lunch, and my coworker loves to talk to me as I'm clearly trying to read. And so sometimes I have to go back, and I was like, wait, where'd this bite come from? And then I flipped back through, and I was like, oh no, it's right there, So I like the Bogdanovic's storytelling. It's crisp and spot on, So because sometimes there are panels, as Conrad likes to point out, where things just happen that don't match.
Where's the cross?
Yeah.
Where'd the cross go?
And I get that, you have that whole part of storytelling that, stuff happens in between panels. But I do like it when you can piece it together cleanly. So that whole rumble with the lights, and then it leads to the sequence of the street opening up.
Well, yeah, because Batman punches him back, and when he sort of lands, he like fires a rocket up the way. Which, can I just point out a detail here that is kind of silly, but I love it? Is that the handle where he's holding the bazooka effectively has spikes, like it's meant to also be used as a punching weapon. Because I can't imagine someone actually punching with like the front end of a bazooka as the knuckle dusters. So big fight happens. Big, what do we call it? A crater is effectively formed in the middle of the street, and Huntress is like grabbing civilians. But the fight ends because basically Worth gets a glimpse of Lady Clayface looking like his daughter, and he has this kind of spiritual, like, heartbreaking moment. And this is the weird thing, is I want to give this credit here, because the way Batman sort of talks about this in his narration, it kind of gives you just a little bit of sympathy for him. Just a little bit. It's not like he's a bit cartoony and over the top, obviously, but here you get just a little bit of humanity. It's like, you know what? For all of the faults that he has, and he still has them, he's still a villain for the rest of the issue. There's just a moment of like, this I kind of get why this is affecting him, seeing his dead daughter.
Especially in the end, with what his plan is. So you're just like, oh man, he's definitely a villain.
Oh yes,
looks like it was.
Of course. So this is how the fight basically ends. It's that last panel especially where she's kind of morphed into just a big clay head, and he's like holding the clay remains on the floor. It's just really like sad and. Like how is he processing this? He can't. He gets arrested. It's on TV that he's going into the police, but then you get that he's been released at the end of the page. Like in fact, there's even a comment from Huntress, I think, in the next page, or maybe Bruce, that it's the shortest lived prison sentence that anyone's ever served in Gotham, because he's that powerful. He's got that many connections.
And they make a big deal that that. When he blew up the police station, a lot of the police weren't there.
Well, I like that's what
only Bruce in there.
That's what I was about to say. I like that even the newscaster kind of talk about it's kind of mysterious how no one was even there except that one person.
So, and then I kind of like that Tamaki with the commentary there is too about Gotham still being corrupt.
So that wasn't the newscaster that said that. That was
what was that?
That was the woman talking to the mayor.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
But yeah. That for as good as because I don't feel like Nakano, like we know kind of where this is going with Sane Industries and Future State, but I don't feel like Nakano being a former cop. I feel like if we have the scale of corrupt Gotham cop in Gordon, I feel like he's a little bit closer to Gordon than
Yeah,
one
I
of the
don't
corrupt
think
cops.
he's like that corrupt. I think he
No.
hates. He
Matt.
has an anti-vigilante thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because they get in the way of them. I mean, it's the Gotham Central argument, right?
Yeah.
That they made in that book is like, look, he's doing our job better than we are, and that makes us look like idiots.
I do think he's coming from a mostly good place, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he
And
is.
so-
I mean, he's kind of. I mean, maybe this is more stupidity rather than a sinister thing, but he is kind of aligning himself with a lot of. Like, I know, just obviously he doesn't know that he's got like a weird monster as a staff member or whatever, but
No,
but
not
he
yet, anyway.
but he does play a role in letting the magistrate take over. So at the very least, he is gullible enough to be
But
taken
that-
advantage of in that sense.
I think naive, yes, but that is different from
And
corrupt.
that's the whole siren song of Law and Order, right? Is that if all you want to do is instill law and order, you got to be careful who you align yourself with, because that can be corrupted as much as the other side of things,
yeah.
right? Of just having pure chaos. So I do like that that's where that's going. Is from reading Future State, we know what bad happens with the magistrate, and so we're kind of watching it happen in slow motion.
I would still definitely call him less honorable, though. He still comes across as quite wormy.
And that's
how he is
what I
with a
mean,
lot
is
of
that
things.
he's closer to on the scale to Gordon than a corrupt cop, but he's not close to Gordon.
Between
you know,
Gordon and Flass, he's closer to Gordon.
Yeah.
Aye.
I think that's kind of what Matt was trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he is as good as Gordon.
He's closer to Gordon, but he's close to the center. He's closer to
Yeah.
the center than he is to Gordon.
Yeah. I mean, he still has his own, stake in things. So. But yeah.
Anyway, so Bruce is having to hide out at Huntress's apartment because now Worth wants to target both Bruce and Batman, so he can't really go back to his place. So there's a couple of jokes tracked about that. It's all pleasant enough. Again, treating Huntress, and I love that Oracle just pops in. Like, she's not been in the book yet, but she pops in just suddenly saying, "Hey, you got released. He's released a press conference. Like, stuff's going on. What do we do with this?" And this catches, there's one panel, there are a couple of panels at the bottom of this page, but this is broadcast. This captures the attention of the Penguin. And this is what's genius about this, because Tamaki, this is the first time Tamaki's not done the backup, but when I got to the backup and saw it was the Penguin, I went, oh,
yeah,
this is nice synergy. Like,
It's the same way we had the Huntress backups before.
But I'm more interested in reading the backup because it felt like it was tying back into something I already saw earlier in the book. So I was, and then of course I see the Batgirls on page 2, and I'm like, okay, I'm definitely reading this. But
right, it's
yes,
it's creating that tapestry of Gotham.
Yeah. So and then we have Worth meeting Hugh, the one of course we discovered last issue, the mayor's aide, who turned out to be the one spreading the monstrous parasite or whatever we're going to call it. And I know Cara's going to complain about the scale of a panel here in a second, but
I already tweeted this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Given that it's in just plain infinite white, I'm going to say it's just a stylized representation, and I have no problem with it.
No, it's not on plain infinite white.
It
Go
is?
to the page before. It's at the bottom panel as well, where there is clear background in the car.
It's a really big gun. What do you want from me?
Is it possible this dude just has a tiny head and
This is what I mean.
gun's very
I
big?
think it is possible. He has a giant gun, or he has a tiny head.
To me,
I don't know which one.
this felt like a stylized thing to me because Worth is drawn is so big, it's extending to his firearm.
That the barrel is the size of his head.
It's a really big gun.
You know, the thing is, I was willing to go, oh, it's a perspective thing. Worth sat in front of him. And now I'm looking at it, but the gun's behind his head. It's not even, his head is in front of the gun. It's not a perspective. It's just bad.
Artistic license. I don't think it looks bad, necessarily.
I think it looks comically terrible.
I think it looks great. It made me laugh.
Thank you, Matt. I agree.
Yeah, it made me laugh. Like, and that's not a quality thing. It's just like, Bogdanovic went, I'm going to draw this massive gun.
Yeah, it made me laugh at how stupid it was, but that's not a good thing. It completely took me out of the book.
Also, if you're a man the size of Mr. Worth, you have to custom order your firearms.
Of course, yes.
Because your big old
Yes.
fat fingers can't actually pull it. So who knows? He has one the size of a, yeah, who knows?
That's fit the mood of the moment for me
How
because
big are the bullets in that thing? What caliber is he getting in that little? Not a little, but what caliber bullets is he getting?
stop nitpicking. It fits the mood of the moment because the whole point of this is that he's supposed to be this squirmy little dude. He feels like he's in power. He's got the gun on him, and then of course we have the panel of the parasite or whatever it is coming out of his mouth, and
Terrifying.
From there it's like, okay, so Worth just got taken. Like that's him now. And at the end of the page, Hugh gets the phone call and he's talking about going to meet whoever he's talking to. And he goes to see the reporter, right? He goes to see Deb Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a proper like horror, like a thriller, maybe is maybe a bit more accurate description, where she comes home, or not even home actually. She's drawn to a meeting, right? And she's like, "This is weird. Why are the lights not on?" And she starts to get kind of nervous. She wants to leave, and he attacks her. That's kind of a cliffhanger there, which then translates to, "This is a trap." He's making it very obvious where to find her. So Batman and Huntress come in, knowing that this is like whoever's done this wants her to be found, wants them to find her. So they get there, and she's classic hostage situation, tied to a chair, gagged, all the rest of it. And you've got Worth, who's helped plant these explosives on behalf of him. And this is the thing, on the page where he's taken, I was actually wondering if he was actually like given the parasite, or if it was more like the threat of it, just to show how powerful he was. And then he was kind of on board to like go along with his plans from that point on. I'm probably more inclined to think that he got parasited, just because it's the more obvious thing to accept. But you could tell me that he didn't actually do it.
I don't think so. I think that this is the tease of the parasite knows what Mr. Worth wants to hear. And this plays more into the plans of whatever this parasite.
Did you take that panel of the parasite as more of a suggestive thing than an actual literal happening in the scene?
I think it was
thing?
a reminder to us.
Yeah.
Like that, this is the guy with the parasite, reminding of what he's capable of.
Yeah.
I will say the only thing in defense of Pete's theory here, because I didn't consider this, is that at the bottom of that page we see Hugh's eyes.
His eyes are green. That's what made me think it. Now,
and we don't see Worth's face again for the rest of the issue. It intentionally keeps his face hidden.
His eyes specifically.
His eyes. Yes.
Yeah, it's hiding his eyes. I mean, now, admittedly, I read 9 books in the space of a few hours with very little sleep, so I am going to concede that my cognitive skills were maybe not as high as they often are while I'm reading my books. But
we'll see, because they're really positioning Mr. Worth as a new thorn in Batman's side. So
yeah, I can buy him not making out of this arc, though. I can buy this,
maybe
being the end of his story, possibly. I'm fine with it either way. Maybe it's intentionally supposed to be vague, and that's why they're hiding it, because it's like, oh, is he taken or is he not, kind of thing. Well, it's funny because that's the page she's complaining about the big gun perspective. If anything, my critique would be that it's a little unclear if I'm supposed to assume that he's been taken or not.
I didn't think it was unclear at all, I'll be honest. I didn't think there was any implication of it. I didn't. Again, maybe we're completely wrong, but I didn't think that panel in green was happening there and then. I took that as like a flashback, kind of showing us, especially as the box in question is square rather.
I did as well until I got to the end of the page and he had the green eyes, and then I thought, he's kind of won this argument now really easily, and I wonder if it's Worth's not threatening him anymore, and maybe it's just that he's convinced by what he's saying, but it kind of felt like, oh, maybe he has just taken him over, and that's why this is like going his way now so easily. But we'll see. Obviously, we'll get more as we go on. Huntress starts taking out some of the explosives, but the cliffhanger, of course, is the explosions happening. Once again, Worth's got a bazooka on his back, and
he says kaboom.
and Hugh's just yes, like a snake that he is. So that's all right. you know, as far as cliffhangers go, obviously we know that they're all fine. We don't expect anyone to actually be hurt in this explosion. That's just comic book cliffhangers. So maybe that's a small knock against it.
I really was worried that they were going to take out the reporter because I like this character.
I like
Donovan.
it too. Yeah.
So I was worried that this was the last of her, but it doesn't seem like it because
I
Batman
think
had
they
just
keep her
got to her.
around long term.
Is a counterpoint to Bruce and Batman, and is a different voice in the city, which is very different from the sexy Vicky Vale reporter lady who flirts with Bruce. This is a very different character, and I think it adds a bit of a fresh flavor to the whole thing.
Yeah, I feel like she's Gotham's Lois Lane, right? She takes no one's shit. She gets the story in. She doesn't like Bruce Wayne because of what she thinks he is. So yeah, and plus I liked that backup last time from her point of view.
Oh sure,
yeah. That was a real good story.
And your gun perspective issue perhaps aside, I don't think there's much to complain about with the art in this issue.
Yeah, Bogdanovic, I really like him.
My only other quibble, and it is a quibble, mind.
All right, set your watches.
There's a panel where you can see Batman's eyes through the cowl, where most of the book it's the whiteout, and those panels just irritated me a little bit. But I wasn't going to mention them.
You did anyway. You graced us with that.
You invited
anyway.
it. You invited me in to just hey, make more quibbles. So a reputation.
Did you say make more tribbles? Don't they do that by themselves?
I was just thinking that sounded like a Star Trek reference. The trouble with quibbles.
Yeah.
So what are you rating the main story in this issue, Matt?
I'm gonna give this I'm gonna give it an 8.
Connor?
Yeah, I'll probably go with the 8.
Yeah, I'll go straight as well. There's definitely a couple of slight quibbles compared to the last issue, which I was more overtly positive on, but I still really like this, like everything it's doing, I like all the characters it's playing with, all good stuff. And I was wondering getting into this, would I read the backup because it's by someone else? But like I said, I got to that first page and went, oh, Penguin. They teased a Penguin thing in the main book, in the main story, and I was like, okay, what's this? And basically what this story is just setting up the motivation Penguin has to be interested in what Worth is saying and doing. And maybe that's actually the best reason why he's not been taken over by the parasite, is because if we're setting up a relationship with Penguin, then it's a bit weirder if he's been taken over in that case.
Mm-hmm.
But this is all about how everyone thinks Penguin is second rate. He's offended that the Batgirl showed up to fight him instead of Batman.
I thought of you there. And you see them, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a Batgirl story secret, and then they just leave, and I was like, oh man, the disrespect.
But then even his henchman quits and says, this isn't really worth it anymore, and then sort of kind of mocks him at the bar and says maybe I'll go try and get work for the Joker, he pays better or something. And it's all just about how Penguin used to be this big shot. I think it's put very well at one point that he's kind of a relic of when crime and families and crime bosses were the main threat in Gotham. He's kind of like a leftover of that. He's a crossover character from that era, and he's kind of like redundant now in a weird way. And this upsets him so much that this guy that's sort of asking him questions, this reporter at the Iceberg Lounge, and it's all questions about how he's not that important anymore. This is the psychotic Penguin who just murders someone. The one good thing about that Gotham TV show was how murderous Penguin was.
Yeah, so I kind of don't. The fact that he's a rich dude in Gotham, though, I felt like this story was just trying to put Mr. Worth over him. That Penguin needs Mr. Worth more than the other way around. Because I like the idea that Oswald Cobblepot is kind of still respected because he's an old Gothamite. He comes from an old family, but kind of people talk about him behind his back more than anything. And this was just like, oh no, they're straight up disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, because this was all about how he's not seen as the threat he once was, and what he sees in Mr. Worth is someone like him. It's someone who is more of a mob boss, someone who has that sort of aura and strength and the henchman and all the rest of it, and sees, oh hey, this is someone that I can form something with. So it was really just that, okay, this is why he's motivated to get involved with him. And because of that, it actually felt like a very effective short story that helped the main story and sort of added to why he will be involved in some capacity going forward. This has definitely been the best use of the backups. This book in general, since it started. The Huntress one maybe didn't need to be 2 parts, but other than that, it's definitely had the best sort of
At least they've kind of
fleshing
made
out.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like the Deb Donovan one last time a little bit more than this one, but this one's not bad. It's fine.
I'll put it this.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way: it's
fine.
the only backup I read this week. I didn't care about any of the other ones.
That's probably true for me.
No, I read the
because I
Superman
didn't
one.
read Justice League.
Yeah. So I read. So
I'm
yeah.
assuming Matt read Justice League backup as
Yeah,
well.
of course.
Yeah. But I mean, the point I'm making is that a lot of them just feel like superfluous extra stories, whereas this actually added a little bit to something that's going on in the main story.
It's interesting in terms of when these things get collected. I read and stuff because someone asked Ramvi, on Twitter the other day, what's the plan with the Justice League Dark backups? And he was saying he believes internally the current plan is they'll be collected in their own trade, which makes a lot of sense for that. But then things like this, you probably want to include them in the main book.
Yeah, I would include these in the main book.
But would you include them like just at the end of the issue as they are here, or would you separate them so it flows better, just story to story?
I think. I mean, I think you have to have some of them. Like the 2 Huntress ones, I'd probably put together in between 2 issues. Yeah. But I think this one has to go after that Penguin tease. Like I don't think you would put this at the end of the trade. It'd feel kind of weird.
I would put the last one too because it set up the whole stuff with Mr. Worth and how he helped.
Yeah, especially if the next issue of this, which might be in the same trade, of course, like has something with more Penguin in it. It would feel weird to have this at the end after there's been more of his involvement.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do because, like, as we the Justice League, that what we know, there's probably enough of an audience for trades for that, considering it had an ongoing book for years. But then you get to like the ones in Superman, which the Jimmy Olsen backups,
right?
Like, I don't know if that's going to get a trade. Yeah, is that going to get its own trade? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
No idea. But the backup was by Megan Fitzmartin and Carol Moster on the art. So, just for the record.
Yeah, Fitzmartin's the one doing the Tim Drake stuff coming up.
Okay. So, yeah, that's very good. I thought it was a nice additional story that benefited the main ongoing stuff. So, which is honestly the best use of a backup to me, unless it's just a really good 10-page story, which it could be. But let's be honest, most of the time they tend not to be. They tend to be kind of just add-ons. So, Matt, what are you giving the backup?
I'm gonna give it a 7. Like it's fine.
Connor?
6.5.
I'm also giving it a 7. I like. Matt sounds so defeated to give something a 7.
Yeah. So I think rating things is kind of dumb. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, but why do you sound enthusiastic about a 9 then?
Because that means I really liked it. I mean, if I could, I'd give everything a 9 or a 10 or a 7.
My scale goes from 7 to 10, and that's about it.
Yeah. Unless it's JRJR.
Really
yeah. And
then it drops.
Then he's busted out the 4s.
That's the equivalent of like the minuses from that.
Yeah, here's the thing. If I'm still reading it, I'm probably still liking it even, a little bit. So, because if I don't like something, I just stop reading it.
We all know that is just not true, Matt.
No.
There are countless examples over the past 5-6 years of you reading things you dislike.
Right, but now I've stopped. So, there's stuff that, that I just won't read.
All right, let's move on. We're moving on.
Titans Academy.
We're moving on.
You're not reading the Shazam book then, Matt?
No.
We're moving on. Next up, Superman 32, Philip K. Johnson and Scott Godlewski on the art. I will say this was definitely a victim of, because especially since this one got delayed, where I opened it and went, oh, what the hell was going on in this book? Because I don't remember. I got that thing. It came back to me as I read it. Don't get me wrong. It did come back to me, but there was a couple of pages where I'm like, okay, I do remember them being on this alien planet, but I could not have told you for the life of me what the plot of the last 2 issues were.
Yeah, it took me a little bit as well.
But I remembered this, but I also love Superman, so it's a little bit different.
Are you trying to say me and Pete don't love Superman?
No, but I'm gonna tend to remember what's going on more in Superman than I am in other books because I like, Superman's my character. So that's all.
Sure.
I feel like we were disrespected a bit there.
I don't think that logic tracks for me, but it's fine. It's fine. So this reveals kind of what happened on this planet as the end of this little arc, which is Taylor. That's taking over next, because we just talked about that being in a few weeks' time.
Yep.
So this is the last issue that Johnson's doing of Superman, and it's technically the last issue of this Superman book because they're renaming it with an issue 1. It's Superman,
Son of Kal-El.
Son of Kal-El, yes.
Yeah.
So we get this idea that the actual spread of this alien entity that took over everyone was an accident. The more scientific alien dude, he was like, hey, I've been studying it so that we can figure out how to fight them again. And the others were so like abhorrent about him even testing this that it kind of gets a little heated, and the orb with the entity in it gets smashed, and whoopsie daisy, this thing is now spread into the leader of this planet.
How did that happen?
Yeah, so that's kind of, we get this flashback, and
it definitely made me think that Clark overlooks people's negative aspects because this guy is not the hero that Superman thought he was, right? Like, the entire culture on this alien planet is, and when we get to action, it's very much Mongol, right? It's the strong, the son will subvert the dad, so, but the son here was kind of a disappointment to the dad because he wanted to learn more sciencey stuff, and they had trapped the entity, and so and while he did usurp his dad, it was kind of an accident, right? Like he's
definitely not ready to lead. This is not who he is versus everything else. So John's kind of fighting on his own. It's not too long though before Superman sort of fights his way out from inside the big monster suit or whatever this thing's now operating. His true form, perhaps. So, and they fight together. There's a lot of action. And I think this is where this arc has been kind of a bit more lukewarm for me versus the rest of Johnson's stuff with the characters. Is that it has felt a little bit like, the fighting is just kind of, I said this, but I think I said this about the last issue, is that the fight is just kind of whatever. Yeah. It's there. Yeah, that's a good example. It's not the arse bad or anything. It's just there's just nothing that exciting about it.
I appreciate a lot of nice dynamic layouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Godlewski a lot, but these aliens are weirdly shaped, and so it kind of makes like when they make not the main aliens, but whatever this was again, they're kind of like a nano cloud almost, right?
Yeah. I mean,
so when they make up the thing that fell, it's kind of half them and half robot, like exosuit. So it just makes for weird angles on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing from this issue, really, other than they fight the thing and they win and that's it, is that John can do something Superman can, which is that he can alter the wavelength of his heat vision into different types of energy, which is a very interesting quirk. It's funny because it's not really a new power per se. It's just like a slight tweak to something that he can already do.
Yeah,
just to give it a little bit of flavor.
Because he's half human? Is it because that's just John being able to flex different muscles? Right? It's like, is this him being able to wiggle his ears and Clark just can't?
I mean, that's a really silly explanation.
Yeah, but
I would perhaps suggest that this is maybe something to do with the fact that either because he's half human, perhaps because he's Kryptonian, but he's literally been on Earth since birth, at least up until he left, or I could argue that his time in different parts of the universe is actually what's contributed to these changes because he spent time under a variety of different suns and it's kind of affecting him differently. I could argue that.
Sure.
Maybe my guess, but that was my big takeaway. That was the big thing to set up. Otherwise, it's a fine issue.
No, I did like that. It felt very John Carter of Mars with the creatures and whatnot, and then status quo gets reset there towards the end. But it was a nice John and Clark adventure, I thought. And John gets to save the day, and the fact that they're calling him John L. There's something about that name that I dig. You don't hear it too often, so
it's the kind of thing where I think it's well written enough, and the dialogue between them, the narration, which is like Superman like talking to John, but after the fact, so it's all kind of in hindsight. And the sentiments that he sort of gives him of you will be the Superman that everyone looks up to and looks back at one day, just like you kind of see me as right now.
And
those sentiments. All right, let me finish my point. Those sentiments are fine and they're sweet and they're good, but I do think that this 3-issue arc could have probably been like one issue.
I think the reality is it was probably going to be a 2-issue arc, and then they knew they needed an extra month till the Taylor book started, and they were like, "Can you
stretch it
a little bit?"
I mean, they could have just had a month off because it's effectively a new book starting. I mean,
but do you really think DC wants to go a month without selling a Superman book when they could rake in money for a Superman
book? Why is
book?
Matt making so much desk noise today? What
I
the
think
hell?
he's doing it just to annoy you today.
No. For reals, that was my cat jumping up on the back of my desk and knocking over something.
Okay.
So, yeah, she jumped up to reach to hit a cord, and it knocked down one of my Han Solo figures I have on my desk. So, yeah.
To be fair, cats are the worst. So
I
believe this.
I love my cat, but she can be a real pain in the ass sometimes. But what I was going to say when Pete was making his point, I do like the fact that the dynamic between the alien father and son, this whole, he didn't want to be like his dad. He didn't want to follow in that footsteps. And then you have John, who, not that he doesn't want to, but he's afraid he'll never live up to it. And Clark looking at him and go, oh no, you're going to be better than me. You're going to be the Superman that, everyone talks about, even more so than me, because, you have everything, about me plus, so I do like the dynamic there between the two sets. And I think Johnson really, really nails that.
Yeah. I'm just kind of lukewarm on it. I don't really have much more to add. I mean, the art's obviously solid. The characterizations are solid. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's kind of just what it is. Anything to add? Anyone?
No, it's good. I won't say I'm glad it's over, but I'm looking forward to starting the Taylor stuff.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad it's over. Yeah, because I kind of forgot what this book was doing. I couldn't remember what the last couple were about, and then I opened it and went, "Oh, it was this stuff." Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm a lot more excited by the stuff going on in action, which I'm sure
For
we'll get to
sure,
shortly.
Yeah.
And I'm
Action's
glad
very
that
interesting.
that's the book that Johnson's keeping out of the two.
Yep.
I also think that because action is the actual book that he's sticking with, I think it does make this little arc clear as well that it's kind of.
It feels like this book was always just can you just write a couple of arcs just so we've got a Superman book for a couple of months.
I remember us saying like, "Oh, we like Johnson, but I wish that someone else was writing one of the other books," and it almost was like that was the plan, but for whatever reason, he's like, "Oh,
it clearly was.
Story.
It was clearly that was clearly the plan, but for whatever reason, they couldn't start the other proper book until July.
Schedules just didn't line up clearly.
So it was like, hey, do a 3-issue arc in Superman first, please.
Yeah.
Well, and I like to think too that Taylor's characterization of John in Deceased is what kind of got him over the hump to get writing John in the Superman book.
It wouldn't surprise me.
When you think about it, that's a pretty bold move on DC's part. To have
giving
just John,
one of the highest respected creators.
No, just to take the Superman book and move Superman just to action, and have his son take over.
I feel like that was an editorial decision rather than any one creator's choice.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. That's a bold move on DC's part to just do that, and then you give it to Tom Taylor, and it seems like a no-brainer, right? But I do feel like what's going to ease it is if you've read Deceased, and you know how he's characterized John, you don't have to worry about much, At least that's how I feel.
Yeah. All right, what are you rating the main story, Matt?
This is an 8.5.
I don't know. 6.5 for me, I think. Connor?
Oof.
I'm over 7.
Okay. Well, Matt, you read the backup, so if you want to give us a quick rundown of that.
So it's more of the same stuff with Bibbo and the people in Metropolis and Loose Cannon. If you remember last time, Loose Cannon went rogue because Projectress, has clouded his mind with stuff, and so they, basically the Metropolis B team comes up with a plan and basically use Bibbo as bait for her, and that they realize her power is based off of like this dust that she uses to make people see what she wants, and that without the light reflecting the dust, she has no power. So they get this other hero who I literally have never seen before, named Arakta. Where's my action or my Superman? And they move through shadows. So it's almost like, who is that member of Justice League Dark back in the New 52 that could move between the shadows? Oh man, I can't even remember. But anyways, a lot like her. And there seems to be a little bit of flirting between Bibbo and her, which is nice because he's kind of had his heart broken by Projectress. But Loose Cannon's there, and when they're able to basically wipe out her power because Bibbo knocks out the lighting, he comes to his senses, and basically they defeat her. And at the end, Jimmy basically says, we can't be afraid of darkness around us. Sometimes it shows us what we need. And they kind of have like this little heroes club going on now, with Bibbo kind of at the front, and he tells Jimmy, you did a good job leading us. And he goes, do you think Superman would be proud of us? And Jimmy looks up into the sky with Bibbo, and there's a red streak that goes through it. And he goes, yeah, I think that he would have been. And that's just kind of how it ends. Bibbo comes to terms with this lady never really was going to be an option, right? And that the B team of Metropolis kind of can band together when necessary, when Superman's busy. I know, and it was nice. Seems like it's over, so I don't know what's going to be, if there even is going to be a backup when Taylor takes over. But
there was a little bit of unclearness on that in the solicits before. I didn't read them close enough this time to check.
But yeah, but this was the end definitively, and I'm just kind of glad because this does feel like filler. So earlier in the show, Connor was bringing up how they're gonna put Justice League Dark in to its own trade. I don't necessarily know if this is ever going to be collected somewhere, because it does. It is one solid story, but
I could see them putting it at the end of the trade, but all together, so it's not interrupting the flow of the story. Or like a bonus thing at the very end.
I can't see this trade selling much on its own.
Not by itself. Whereas I feel like Justice League Dark's its own brand. Tales of Metropolis, unless they were going to spin a book out of it, which I don't think they are. But it's fine. The art's there. The Basri is decent. If this was just a Bibbo backup, I'd be fine. But it just seemed like everybody got their own turn towards the end. And Jimmy's just kind of there, so it's not even really the Jimmy Olsen backup. But I mean, if they want to do Tales of Metropolis starring Bibbo, I'm going to buy it. I love Bibbo. But yeah, so I'd give this a 6.5. And also just to prove you guys that I just don't give 7s through 9s. No. But yeah.
I love how to prove you didn't give anything lower than a 7, you went the highest you possibly could.
Yeah.
Under a 7.
Yeah.
All right. Wonder Woman 774 Becky Cloonan with Michael Conrad. You guys read this, so take it away.
Yeah.
Different artist this time as well.
Yeah.
Just gonna get the name. It was Andy McDonald.
Yeah. Who is fine. It's not more, right?
It felt like a step down. It's not terrible art. It's really not bad, but it just didn't feel.
It's not my kind of art though.
No, we had like really nice clean art for the last art.
Yeah.
It was really strong and stylized. And this is a bit more line heavy, kind of shaded.
Yeah.
It's scratchier. It's fine.
Also,
it's good.
When we get to the point where Wonder Woman ties up another god, it felt very kinky, for lack of a better term. Just the way that he's tied up.
In their defense, that is Wonder Woman from the start, right?
I understand that. However, God that she doesn't know, little bit weird to go with the whole collar and front tie kind of vibe. I just wanted to point that out with the art. Like, I don't feel like that was in the script. I could be wrong.
It probably wasn't, but again, I feel like that's more of just a homage to Wonder Woman's past. Kind of being full of that stuff for like the first decade of her existence.
Right. So, little disappointed now that we're out of Valhalla and the tone is kind of shifted. This is more typical of Wonder Woman kind of stuff because we're dealing with the Greek gods, but we're also getting a little bit of the Roman gods in there. And
Well, yeah, just the one.
yeah, but I feel like we're leading to more of them. And if you know your Greek and Roman mythology, you'll know that one gave way to the other. And, they're mostly the same. However, the Roman ones are a lot more militaristic and aggressive than the Greek gods, right?
And with worse names.
Yeah.
Well, let's just name them all after planets.
Do you think we named the planets after the gods, Connor?
Some of them.
Yeah,
Some of them, the gods were named after the planets because it's like, some of those planets were discovered by the Greeks, and then the Romans were like, well, we need names for our gods, and it's the planets gave them the names. Because the Greeks had already named some of those planets.
I understand that, and like you have Venus, the morning star, but I'm talking about like you start getting to the far ones that you need full-on telescopes and the
No, I'm talking
the 1600s.
I'm talking like Mars.
Right. But you can see from Earth and on a clear night.
Right.
Yeah. Right, but I feel like, anyways, we're getting lost here. But so, we basically find out that when Wonder Woman ascended, she was meant to go to Olympus, but she couldn't because a Roman god was already on the pantheon in her spot. Now, why that is part of the larger mystery, but we find out that this other god that was there was Janus, who
famously
is the god of two faces, duality, and usually, described in art that's found of that time as literally someone with a face in the front and the back, right?
Think Voldemort at the end of the first Harry Potter film.
Right. Here, though, this Janus is almost two beings that share a body, and through the retelling of Janus is the dark version of Wonder Woman that we kept being teased through the Valhalla arc, right? Went on a tear and wrecked Olympus. And according to this other version of Janus that's telling the story, who looks like your typical Roman kind of god, beard, tunic.
Yeah, I assume they did still share a body and had like two faces because there's a big like gaping hole in his back and sort of like torn flesh. Yeah,
right.
So it looks like they had a body coming out the back as well.
Right. And that basically this dark version of Janus, who took the form of Wonder Woman, destroyed Olympus. And now, Wonder Woman has to figure out why exactly didn't she ascend to Olympus as she was meant to, being that she's a demigod already. And so she goes to Deadman to get his perspective. And Deadman's, what's he doing with Xanadu? Is he doing? Is it a card game?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was nothing like important.
No. But she pulls him back to the realm of the gods. And let me see where to go from here.
That's where they go to the graveyard.
That they go to the graveyard of the gods, which we get a real cool version of Tartarus, and that we find out that Diana's put a lot of the people in Tartarus.
Makes sense.
They take this cool little elevator down, and she's seeing all of these people there, including Kronos, which I think is a big thing, because Kronos is time, right?
Yeah, Kronos, in a lot of versions of mythology, is kind of banished to Tartarus by Zeus and the others.
Right, Kronos. So, they get down there, they enter the graveyard of the gods, and it gets real trippy, because there's a who looks like, because I had just read this a couple months ago, Khonshu from Marvel, version of that, bird-headed. Is this meant to be?
Yeah.
Right? Is this meant to be the ferryman? Is this?
I don't know. He's holding the lantern as if he's
Chiron? Right.
I've never seen Chiron look like this before, though.
Me neither. So that's who's waiting for him. And yeah, they're gonna go out. I also did like the person standing guard at
an old warrior, Jason. I'm assuming of the Argonauts.
That's what I'm thinking.
That was my assumption.
Right, and Deadman's there, Clearly he knows him. Tells him, go forth, you'll find what you seek, but you will fail. But you will fail, never to return again. He goes, thanks, Jay. Always a pleasure. A little bit of fun. But yeah, so
it feels like a real transitory issue of just like, okay, let's kind of set things back up. Let's start this arc. It's a slow start to the arc, though. It's
kind of missing the novelty that the Valhalla stuff had, where you had Wonder Woman in an unfamiliar setting.
I'm still enjoying what it's doing with Ratosk. I think that stuff's getting more interesting. The idea that it's her fault that she went to Asgard and like was to to save the tree, and that was kind of thanks to him.
Right. I also am not trusting Ratosk because just the way that he talks to Janice wouldn't surprise me that there's a trickster at play here. Whether it's Loki or one of the other.
Yeah, she seems
who we'll meet.
Diana seems to think he's referring to Hermes.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely convinced.
Hermes or Mercury, or there's so many different tricksters. It could be Coyote from the Native American, traditions.
There's still the potential that we're playing with Loki, given that we did just set up a bunch of Asgardian
stuff, and I feel that's hilarious given the synergy of the Loki show being on as this is coming out. Talking about variants and whatnot. So yeah, but no, like it's fine.
It's still a solid issue. It's a solid issue. It's just nothing amazing. It's nothing standout.
No, I'm still gonna keep going on this one.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, just her back on Olympus. I was just kind of like, okay, we've kind of seen this kind of stuff before. And when you have the whole realm of the gods and her, going through here, you just kind of want to see something new. At least I do. I'm not gonna speak for Connor here. But I'm curious to see if the Roman gods are involved, how she interacts with them. If it's any different, like would she get along with Mars versus Ares, right? Because they are different. Like they're similar.
They are different, yeah.
So, and just kind of the beat on Kronos there. Like we really focus on him. And almost as like that's, to me, I read that as the clock's ticking, right? That's who she put in there.
Right. It felt intentional, but like, why single out him of the people that were there? Like, are we going to be playing with him at some point in the upcoming arcs?
So, but so rating, I'm going to give this a 7.5.
I'm just going to go with a straight 7.
There you go. Cool. And of course, we didn't read the backup, so let's keep that theme going.
Okay. All right. The Justice League issue 63. Brian Michael Bendis writing with David Marquez on the art. It is worth mentioning, I did not have this on the list at the start of the show and no one noticed. I just want to point that out. I realised halfway through.
Missing one.
But no worries, I remembered.
I mercifully didn't have to read this, so that's why I didn't notice.
I'll just say, I can't wait to talk about Justice League Dark. So we'll...
Sure.
Which I didn't read either yet, Matt, so...
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm going to have to wait for the trade now.
Yep, that's okay.
Break out the violins. Break out the violins. Connor can play violin. We should just play his own violin. His own sad song.
Connor, can you play violin?
Yeah.
It's literally the instrument that you learn music on.
I started playing violin when I was 6 or 7.
I knew you were a music dude. I did not realize violin was your
That's my primary, yeah.
Gotcha. Did not know this. I've recorded with you for going on however many years now. Too long. And now I'm finding this out.
I played for like 20 years.
All right. Get out the violin, Connor. Play yourself off.
See you all next week, folks.
So, yes.
All right. Go ahead. Tell me how you enjoyed Justice League.
Oh, that sounds like a negative tangent or tinge to the tone. Naomi wakes up in the Hall of Justice, and we kind of get all these... Black Canary comes in, asks her how she is. They kind of talk about the incident that went down, and we flash back to how they left the other world, which is basically Naomi went to Zambada, and there was a giant mass release of energy. She kind of lost control, went supernova effectively, or at least in combination with him went supernova. It might be a more accurate description. So there's some fights and 2-page layouts. if there's one thing I'll criticize these Bendis books for, is that they have this nasty habit of having like 4 double-page spreads back to back or double-page layouts back to back, which is kind of annoying.
That's what we said last time.
Yeah.
That Marquez, however, it is beautiful, but they're in succession.
Yeah. It just makes them feel kind of like, I don't know, less impactful because they're just back to back.
That's also what we said last time.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
It's still true.
You were reading as we were talking, so it's fine.
It's still true. So, Batman. Oh, that's right. I didn't talk about it last time because I was too busy reading Swamp Thing. That's right. Yeah. So, Batman steals the magic doohickey that what's his name?
Brutus.
Thank you. That was good.
And McMurph created.
Yeah. So what they used to get into Earth in the first place, get into our Earth, and basically, as they're leaving, this is the thing that really stuck out to me, is that Brutus seemingly gets eviscerated by Black Adam on the way out, where he's like, "Hey, you pissed us off." So now he doesn't actually get killed though. He is alive later on. He's lying weak and on the ground, and if you think that Zambado might kill him, but he kind of leaves him alive to be his henchman. And for him and the other one to like build this thing again, even though it took years and lots of resources to find a way to get to like, you know, Earth Zero, but he wants to go back. He wants to go back and claim his new Earth. So that's kind of that. The rest of the issue though is the Justice League talking with Naomi and trying to establish the plan. She's asking, when can we go back? I feel like I need to help them. And I did like this part where Superman talks about the pool. Like, once you're aware that there's other worlds out there of people that are suffering and you want to help them, and even more so in this case because it's your world, it's your people. And there's probably one of my favorite moments of the whole book is there's a panel where when she calls it her world and Clark's just sort of standing behind her, and it's just in the art his reaction to this, where he kind of understands it in this way because he has his own world too, which is separate from Earth. So he kind of relates to her. It's so funny because Naomi's whole story, her book, was about how she saw something special in Superman, and there was so many comparisons to Superman being this orphan from another world. I think it's funny that here in this issue, it's flipped it, and she's talking about something, and Superman's relating to her through the other side of that mirror image. So I kind of like that. And that's basically it, other than Black Adam saying being offered a role in the Justice League by Superman. And he even kind of has a moment with Hippolyta, where Hippolyta's about to leave, and he says that he hopes Hippolyta can see the good in him again before he flies off, effectively. Maybe implying that he does have intentions of trying to kind of have a more public persona and maybe shed some of the more villainous side that people see him as and regain some of his honor in some people's eyes. And the issue ends with basically, Naomi is kind of part of the Justice League, and she flies off home because she has to go home and see her parents. And that's it. So it kind of wraps up what this first little arc has been, but clearly it's not the end of the villains from her world coming through. This has been a primer for what the main part of that story is going to be. Although I'm not convinced that'll be our arc number 2. I feel like it's going to do something else for an arc, and then probably come back to that. Maybe with that bubbling up in the background.
Also, I like Green Arrow basically telling Batman, "Hey, you're cash poor right now. I got this."
Oh, you're right. Yes, that was also a scene.
I'm gonna bankroll. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, he's paying for all the employees at the Hall of Justice and the maintenance right now.
Keeping it going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it well enough. I wouldn't. I mean, I know you're about to say why you didn't like it, but I wouldn't say I didn't like it. I would say I overliked it. I would say it's perfectly readable. It's very Bendisy, for better and for worse. Yeah. So, how are your feelings on the?
Yeah. So again, I love Naomi. I gotta caveat this with I love Naomi as a character. That first arc, or that first mini, fantastic. I just feel here, Bendis has not given me a reason outside of her superpower set why she needs to be on the Justice League, right? Like, I just feel like he's throwing her in there because that's his character. He's writing the book, and I get the stuff with Superman and how she was inspired by him, and then you point out that he's inspired by her a little bit here. But like, I don't know. I feel like she's being shotgunned onto the Justice League, and we'll see
I think
if this goes
there's an
into the next
important
issue.
distinction here I think needs to be made is that, and this doesn't necessarily change the complaint necessarily, but I think it's important to point this out, that it's not so much just that she's been shotgunned onto the team, it's because the entire plot right now, the villains, it's all about her world, it's about the villains from her world, it's all connected through her. So I would say that it's more that the Justice League are being included in this arc of Naomi. It just happens to be called Justice League.
Right. But so for it to be called Justice League and not Naomi, I still feel like she's just the MacGuffin.
It's kind of bizarre how Bendis was writing Young Justice for like 2 years and didn't throw Naomi onto the Young Justice team. Where
she did appear in it. She wasn't.
No, appeared, but like as a main member, where arguably she's a better fit for than Justice League, right?
In my opinion, I agree with that. And again, I want more Naomi stuff, but I just feel the inclusion of the Justice League here is almost it's too many spinning plates, like, and especially when you have the Marquez art and you have all of these fight things going on and all those little bubbles. I was kind of losing track here, and I kept forgetting, like, oh yeah, this is Naomi's home planet, and there's a lot going on here, and there's a whole lot of mysteries that he seeds. Like, why don't Black Adam and Superman's powers work, right? But Black Canary's is supercharged.
I mean, tons of people's are supercharged. Hers was just more like, because she even says she misses the supercharged Canary cry, whereas the others are the powers are just so in the fritz that it's unmanageable.
Right. And all that type of stuff. And I feel like it's Naomi co-opting the Justice League, and not that Justice League needs to be this, flagship series for DC. Just that I would like a nice clean Justice League story that's not just, I feel like you pointed it out perfectly, better than I could, that this is Naomi featuring the Justice League.
I feel like this is the sort of thing as well, like where if this was like the fourth arc of Bendis's run, just hypothetically, your fourth arc, you're doing a Naomi thing, you go, okay, that's fine now. But when you start, like, there was nothing of his Justice League before this. It was just Naomi from the start.
I think, I mean, the fair disappointment that I would agree with is that you see Bendis on Justice League, you see some of the team books he's had before, you're hoping for that sort of special Bendis run on the book. And I think the inclusion of Black Adam and Apollo and Green Arrow and Black Canary felt like, oh, he's building a very unique team. It feels like it might be a special new era for Justice League. So the fact that it does feel more like Naomi Season 2 that happens to also star the Justice League is a bit of a weird feeling. And because this end of this arc just feels like it's only planted seeds to come back to this, well, whether that's in the very second arc or further down the line, it feels like, oh, this is what this run's really about, rather than being just a full-on Justice League run.
Is Naomi sticking around as part of the team?
Seems like it.
That's how I feel, because they basically they've all agreed, and I like this. Again, I feel like she's shotgun, but they've all agreed kind of to mentor her because she's so lost, right? Like, she's, she has the issues with her planet and wanting to go back there, but she has no idea how to use her powers because they're so on and off.
I did like that. Like, all of them basically say they'll chime in and help train her. Like, Aquaman says you'll join in and stuff. That was kind of neat.
Which I like that, but for her basically to be a Justice League mentee versus a full-on member, especially with how we don't understand how her powers work. She doesn't understand how her powers work. They're kind of on the fritz. Like, I again, there's other young heroes that I feel that are more ready for. How come every young, powerful hero isn't given the same slot Naomi is?
Because they're not all written by Bendis.
Exactly, and that's and I just feel like too. This is every book he's written. He's thrown Naomi in at some point. Action.
It's a weird thing because unlike those books, this book is constructed to where she is vital to it, because she's vital to it because the entire plot's revolving around the enemies from her world coming to Earth,
which kind of makes it worse, right?
Well, kind of, yeah. It's kind of why I'm saying that it's not that the complaint's invalid, but I think the complaint has to be reworded slightly, because it's not so much that she's been shotgunned into a story that she shouldn't be included in. It's more that the entire thing is constructed to be a Naomi story. with Justice League just
I
being a
just-
part of it. You know, I think there's a distinct difference in that.
It feels
This was-
like perhaps Bendis was like, how do I make Naomi sell more? I know. I
Yeah, pretty
call the
much.
next Naomi book Justice League and the sales will triple.
Right, but I don't even feel like that because sometimes she doesn't feel like the main character.
Well, she's not. I
You
mean, she's
know?
not. I mean, she's not always the main character. I mean, they still at least try to
Right.
pretend to be an ensemble book. And here's the thing.
Right.
I mean, for all I know, she might be the lead character in the next issue. She might be on the cover. I can't remember the solicit. But it wouldn't surprise me if she is gone for a couple issues here. The way she sort of
Right.
leaves to go
And if-
home to see her parents, like she could be gone for a couple issues, and we could get like a little two-parter or something. That's just a little fun Justice League story. I don't know. I don't know
just-
that.
And stuff
I-
tying into Checkmate next.
I
I
don't
vaguely
know.
remember
Well,
that being a thing.
That's the one book she hasn't showed up in yet.
Yet.
Give it time. Give it time though. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really do like.
Was she in Legion?
What? No, but that was a mess. So
Yeah, but you don't just get to say that, and that discounts it.
That was set 1,000 years away.
yeah, and John was there.
It was time
So-
traveling, though. They could
But
find a way.
I'm sure given enough time, Naomi would have showed up, and they would have given her a Legion name, which I actually kind of would have liked, because then she'd get a code name, and we just don't call her first name. You know, I'm trying to think of a good name for her because I don't even exactly know what her powers are either. Like, there's still so much mystery to the character, and it's very frustrating. You know, because and then just the way that the story starts here, like it's the old Bendis. All right, well, we'll start. You know, we won't start at the cliffhanger. We'll jump forward and then we'll go back. And I know they're energy based, but I don't exactly know what they are. Pete, do you know what they are?
No, it was.
Naomi's
Yeah.
powers.
Oh, her
Describe
powers.
Naomi's
Okay.
powers.
Her powers are. There's energy. She has blasts of energy.
Exactly.
I mean,
So just
I'm
Yeah,
not I'm not fussed about the definition of her powers. Like, if the whole idea is she's kind of a weird junior member, will they train her? Like, I think that's a fine concept. But the book is designed around it being all around her lore, which whatever. The funny thing about this is that the more time goes on, the more Bendis' time at DC overall looks like it's a bit of a disappointment overall. Because the Checkmate's very good. Or Leviathan was very good, and Checkmate's looking promising enough. But there's been definite caveats to everything. Young Justice was kind of disappointing, and ultimately just didn't feel like it was up too much.
Is
Legion-
Naomi the one thing that that first of all, that was like the one hit?
And Leviathan, I'd say. Those are the two
fair
things I really liked. But
So it's really-
and large portions of action, to be fair, there was definitely parts early in the Superman stuff that I really, really liked.
yeah, because
It went a bit wonky as it went on, but
Yeah.
Superman for the most part I think is the first Naomi mini are my two favorite things he's done. The Leviathan stuff is pretty good. Teen Titans or Young Justice started okay and then just felt superfluous.
and the funny thing is though, is that for all of these books, there's been sort of like hype going into them because it's going to be a Bendis Young Justice book where it's going to make
It's
Young Justice
Bendis.
big, or it's
Yeah.
going to be the Return of Legion, it's going to be big, or he's doing Justice League and it's this is a really cool looking roster, it's going to be big. And because that each of those have kind of, and this is bad. Like, I think this is very readable, but it's not a special new era of Justice League by any means. It's not that at all. So there is
No.
kind of this now lingering thing where I'm kind of expecting to be mildly disappointed with whatever Bendis gets attached to at DC now.
But see,
Which-
stupid me goes into it going, oh man, Bendis writing Ollie? I've always wanted to hear him because street level heroes Bendis just nails. And like his Ollie's fine, but he's not almost a main character.
Mhm.
And it's more Hippolyta, Naomi, and Black Adam is who he's chosen to focus on right now. Which weird flex for a Justice League book, but I'm gonna keep reading, give him the benefit of the doubt. But I feel like now I'm mainly buying the book for Justice League Dark, not for Bendis' Justice League. Because if they had spun Justice League Dark out in its own book, I would easily buy that before I buy this. And that's a weird spot for a backup.
I mean, I find it very readable still, even if it's not like the best thing ever. I mean, but notably because I am enjoying so much of what I'm reading right now, it is kind of lower in the ranks, but it's still better than
Yeah.
the typical things that I'm kind of I teeter on and drop.
I mean,
So it's
if something catastrophic happened and I had to drop a bunch of books, I would not be upset about losing Bendis Justice League.
You'd just be upset
not
about
like,
it was Justice League Dark.
That one a little bit, but I would get over it. But this isn't Taylor's Nightwing or even Detective Comics, which I'm thoroughly enjoying right now.
Oh yeah, Detective's way better than this. There's no
but it is kind of, and it's not even a quality thing. It's just because again, it's fine. If you like Bendis, I'm sure you like this, but it isn't, out of everything I've read from him, this isn't his strongest by a mile. Like I don't even think he's, outside of some of the earlier Superman stuff and Naomi, the first mini, I don't think he's even touched any of his peak stuff.
I think expectations with Bendis now are tempered, just sort of in general, and that's fair.
Right.
So
and you know what? I feel the same about Johns, and I'm always on record saying Johns is my favorite writer. But over the last couple of years, outside of Doomsday Clock,
all right, Matt. Okay, you're tangenting off here. I'm wrapping this up.
I'm just saying.
Outside of Doomsday Clock, he's only really written the Batman.
I know.
3 Jokers.
I know.
And that's it.
But he always spins it into a more general point about things in a large scope that don't really have any reference to what's going on in the conversation.
But I'm just saying, it's not just Bendis though. I feel like some of our favorite writers, they're in a different phase than some of the other stuff that we're more excited for.
Matt, what are you rating the story?
6.5.
I concur with a 6.5. Okay.
So what I'm guessing Matt was saying is that
don't guess what he was saying.
All
just
these younger
move
writers
on.
that are coming through, the Williamsons, the Rambis, they're more exciting
Taylor.
than the old guard.
Yeah, and I just feel that's comics, the cycle, right?
Yeah,
that's all.
If you don't start about Justice League Dark right now, you're not going to. We're moving on.
I mean, if you want to deprive the listeners of a stellar Justice League Dark, be my guest. You can move on.
Go on.
I'm gonna play chicken now.
Go on. Do it. Hurry up.
Okay. He was never gonna follow through on that threat. So
someone wait when it's done, because I'm gonna mute this so I don't ruin it for myself.
There you go. Go ahead and mute it. So they're in the library.
There'll be no waving.
And
I'm just gonna let him sit there quietly for the rest of the episode.
He's going, this is a long Justice League Dark review.
You talking shit about me already?
Yes.
Not at all. I would never do such a thing.
I just see laugh. If Pete's laughing, he's not listening to a damn thing Matt's saying about Justice League Dark. That means this is about me.
Yes. So real quick. I'll be quick. So they're inside the Library of Babel, and they're talking with the librarian, and basically Constantine comes up with a fix out of this where he ends up making a meta story about them finding the key to get out of the library. And you end up seeing the script for this issue of Justice League Dark with stuff crossed out and rewritten, and you're meant to believe this is Constantine writing it. And real fun page with them actually standing on the script, talking about how this is going to work. And how they end up out of it is Constantine pulls up the corner of the page and it pulls them back into the actual library they started in. But they're Jason Blood says that because they figure out that he's going to Atlantis because that's the book that he pulled, and that they need to get word out to Aquaman. And Jason Blood says, like, this is all meaningless because you don't know Merlin like I do. He's the smartest, most Machiavellian adversary any of us has faced. Now he has his book. This is all pointless. He's going to do what he needs to do. But, he's always 1,000 steps ahead. So let's use this against him. And then it goes to the Tower of Fate with Man-Bat and Khalid basically trying to access Naboo because Naboo's, not in the helm anymore. And there's this long spot of Man-Bat talking about why this might not work. And Khalid goes, wait, what do you mean it might not work? He goes, I'm a biologist who accidentally turned himself into a bat. I have no idea what I'm doing. So it was just a little bit of fun there. And they end up firing, all this energy into the helm. And Khalid gets visions, what looks like, I would say, like, it says standing in the sands of Ur, a great ziggurat looming on the horizon, which Ur is basically the Atlantis of the Sands. It's, there's stories about it that it had disappeared. It's on the Saudi Peninsula. It's never been found. And then a vision of them standing at the Tower of Fate as it's being destroyed. And then a vision of a young woman at the doorstep of a great cathedral. And that's where it cuts to our knight that, Merlin had stabbed and left for dead. Her name's Elnara. She's in Gotham City at this church. And so she goes in, and there's some weird cult thing going on. And it looks like they're working for Merlin or in order. Like, they have swords. They're wearing red cloaks. And the main one says, so it seems like they're working against Merlin. Now upon second read. Says, as we suspected, the old man was speaking to someone on the outside. I'll handle him. She shows up, basically announces herself as Elnara Rostu, the 13th Oathsworn. And to basically, cast aside your weapons because your reckoning's here. As she's doing this, Batman's overlooking and he smiles, to which it's to be continued. This is Xermanico art, which, earlier in the show when we talked about Infinite Frontier, I just wish Xermanico could draw everything. I think current favorite artist working right now, I'd have to say. So the book ends up looking fantastic, and just Ram V with what he's doing by breaking up the story into different chunks, because still don't know what Merlin's plans with Atlantis are. But here, our hero's having to try to stay steps ahead while he's even more. And then just with the meta storytelling, it's just, fun to read. And I look forward to this one every, now it's every other week. So that's nice. So I'm gonna give Justice League Dark an 8.5.
Robin, issue 3, Joshua Williamson and Gleb Melnikov on the art. So Damien's trying to learn how to be friendly and party with youths.
Yeah. You gotta learn how to have friends. The Damien's like, I've had friends, and they're like, no, you kidnapped people and made them be your friend. And I just love that vibe out of Rose, because we know he has a friend in John.
Yeah, there was no counter for John.
No, but when you think about it, yeah, like Aqualad was never his friend. He always treated Aqualad like his, inferior. Like, no, you work for me. And I started thinking, I was like, yeah, John really doesn't, or John, Damien doesn't have any friends outside of John. And maybe Alfred, but Alfred's gone.
He kind of surprises Rose,
say
though.
He's not really friends with John anymore either. The way he says it, they grew up too fast. It's like, he can't relate to John the same way that he could before.
No, but I would still consider them friends based off of,
I think that's a case of he says this now when he's not around, but the second he's in a room with John, I suspect.
That's fair, but I think there is a fair thing to say that the difference now, like in their experiences, is pretty significant at this point in their lives, that he's not sure that they are friends on the same level anymore.
Well, that's Damien's own insecurities, because if you were to ask John who his best friend is.
Well, yeah, obviously this is Damien's insecurities. It's the Robin book we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I know. But what I'm saying is, what book was it, Pete, where they went and grabbed lunch together, and it was them sitting on the rooftop?
Oh, I can't remember.
Was it Robin Zero? Was it in that?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think I've read this.
No. I don't remember. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. I remember it happening, but I don't remember what it was in.
Yeah, but it was almost like their last hurrah of, like, we're going to go in two different directions, but we're always going to stay buds. If you ever need me, call me. So, but I did notice that too, Connor, where he said, they grew up too fast. And I also feel it was a subtle dig from Williamson at that, but through Damien's voice, it makes sense.
Yeah, and Damien, of course, actually surprises Rose when he impresses everyone very quickly by just doing a little trick with some throwing daggers. I thought
the scene in Aliens.
Well, no, it's not, because I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be the bishop thing with a knife, but instead he just throws all the knives up in the air, puts his hand down, and they all land in between his fingers. So and the cocky bastard decides to wink when he does it as well.
Were they doing that game when he walked up? Because if you look at the dude's hands, it looks like they're moving quick. Okay. So then he decides just to one-up them.
Yeah, it's a variation on that, for sure.
Yeah.
It is definitely supposed to be still like that game. It's just Damien being like, I can do it better.
Slowly having a lot of love for Flatline, just because she's so awkward, and that when they get talking about Batman, and how he beats up people. And
well, I mean, yeah, this is I think the main thing of the issue. Other than of course the conversation with Connor Hawke is that basically as soon as he sort of starts to win the crowd over, all they start doing is all talking about their experience with Batman, and it becomes about Batman, and Damien's kind of overshadowed immediately.
Well, and I love though too. These are all arguments that I hear online about why Batman sucks. That aren't my stuff, right? They're like, he's not helping. He just shows up and beats the piss out of people and then throws them into Arkham. And you're like, oh, so this is what the villains feel that Batman's doing. But I love that when Flatline goes, oh yeah, Batman's beat up Lord Deathman numerous times. And just her whole like, I don't know, there's an innocence to her, even though that she's probably a straight up murderer, right?
I mean, she's on this island. She definitely is.
She's on this island, but there's like a naivety, innocence that I love with her, that balances Damien so well. That I hope she sticks around long term. She's a fun new character.
Damien kind of can't take it, so he kind of slinks out the scene and goes for a little walk, and he runs into no one else but Connor Hawke, who is, as he's heard, is his biggest competition, and he starts to ask about, well, you're with the League, I've been with the League, I never saw you around, what's going on? And they end up actually kind of bonding, because they start comparing their fathers, they start comparing, because there's that full page spread where you see, Batman and Green Arrow kind of in the night sky, and it's just the bubbles going back and forth of, so you ever grew up with them? Well, he actually, he knew I existed and he just ran away. Well, did your father die? Yeah, but he came back. Yeah. it's just this back and forth all the way down the page.
Connor Hawke's, he knew about me, but he ran away. I forget about that, about Ollie. And about, he knew Connor Hawke was there, but he didn't want anything to do with him. That's worse than anything Batman's ever done. And I say this as someone that's real negative about Bruce.
Ollie has often been kind of shitty.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not like a one-off thing. That's kind of like his shtick.
And as a hero, I prefer him to Bruce.
Mate.
He's more, I won't say realistic, but, he goes through things that, he does, a lot of mistakes that everyday people do, right? They're very common things.
Yeah, I guess. I just, but again, I forget that how shitty he can be, because, but yeah, so I just liked all that. And they talk about the different, you have themed cars in a cave and all that stuff. I do love that they really are more similar than we had thought at the outset. And that's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, they immediately kind of bond in a way where it's not like they're mortal enemies.
He's making a friend named Connor. Like, weird. Maybe that'll work for you too, Pete.
Never. Damien should run right now. The best choice he has. So the guys from the League show up and are like, why are you socializing with him? He's your enemy. Yeah. And Damien's
Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, and Damien recognizes this guy though. He's like, wait a minute. I remember you when I was little. You got kicked out the League because you were shit.
Yeah.
Like,
I helped kick you out. That's how bad you were.
Yeah, so basically they make Connor and start a fight, even though it's against the rules to fight at night. And sure enough, we get this 2-page layout of all the punches and kicks. I actually thought Connor Hawke was going to do the Bane backbreaker.
Me too.
The way he held up Damien, I thought he's going to break his back, and then he just threw him off the cliff. But still, well, I say cliff. It wasn't that. But I was quite high.
And the one dude from the League is like, well, technically this doesn't break the rules because you're not dead, but you're going to be in a lot of pain.
And you only heal if you die. So
good luck.
Well, what's so cool about this is so you get this page where he's falling down. You get that nice big vertical panel with him going down. And then you get the actual, because that one's quite tranquil almost because it is kind of perfectly still. But then the next one has got all the speed lines, and it feels like he's getting faster as he goes down. But then there's like a blur and a whoosh, and it's like, wait, what caught him? And you sort of see the image of a bat against the moonlight, but it's kind of this, tease of like who actually did swoop in and save him, and it's kind of left as a mystery right here. And then the cliffhanger when he wakes up. Grandfather Raz has come to pay him a visit, but he's looking a bit different. He's got long hair. His beard's growing in a little bit. He's kind of hobo Raz.
Yeah,
I don't think the beard's actually that different. I think it's just if you change the hair, the beard's mostly the same as what we're used to seeing him with.
I suppose.
Which
he's got his priorities right.
I don't know. The middle of the beer looks more filled out to me, but it's probably.
It does. No, it looks longer than normal.
It's splitting hairs at that point.
Well, because usually he doesn't have a beard. It's just the goatee, right?
That was great. Yeah, it's usually a thin goatee with the.
Yeah, I'm thinking
I've definitely seen him with the beard as well, though.
I don't remember. But also, outside of that short stint in Hell's Outsiders, we haven't really seen Roz in Rebirth. Right?
I mean, yeah, Outsiders was the main thing he was in, I guess.
Yeah. So he's legit been gone, and so this was a nice surprise. And just judging from, how he basically wanted Damien to use as his next vessel, and that's why he was created. This adds a whole new dynamic here. Is he going to train him in the way of the demon? What's going to happen? But yeah, fun cliffhanger here.
Yeah, solid issue. I don't think issues 2 or 3 of being as good as issue 1, but that's just because issue 1 was extremely surprisingly good. This is a really fun series that I look forward to reading because it is a very light, breezy read. It gives us a nice sort of check in with Damien. It's giving him a spotlight, and it's tying into the various aspects of his character. There's not as much of it this issue, but you still get a little bit of the ghost Alfred over his shoulder. I kind of dig how it's a close up, just like focus on his mouth and sort of more abstract looks at him like that, rather than just showing Alfred.
It's a fun book.
Atmosphere, I'd say.
Yeah, and I like how it's kind of just deconstructing Damien as this little shit character that we know him as, and I feel like through his experience here on Lazarus Island, he's going to come out actually reborn, but not in the way that we think, right? And if I had to guess, Roz is there because of this massive Lazarus pit, and he's probably not happy about it.
That's why he's looking a bit rough, because he needs to
he needs a dip.
Rejuvenate again. Yeah, he needs to.
What if he just enters? He's like, Damien, you're no longer representing the demon's head. I'm going to go in for you. And it's just old man Roz kicking the shit out of everybody. I actually want to see that.
He needs to go take a skinny dip
in
the Lazarus pit. Matt, what are you giving Robin issue 3?
This is 8.5. Plus Melnikov? Gleb. Melnikov. There we go. Gleb's art.
I didn't even know what Matt was trying to say there.
Thank you. Connor got it.
I did.
Connor, not Hawk. That's his new name. But yeah.
CR21.
CR21.
Not Hawk.
Conrad.
The aliases keep building.
Not Hawk is the best because it's automatically negative.
It's also just factually correct. I don't know if it's that negative.
Yeah, but we're just describing what you aren't by what you are.
So it's not Hawk, not Kent.
Right. I mean, if you ask Pete, exactly. There you go. He doesn't know what you're talking about. He might as well be Starfire because he doesn't recognize it.
Hey, given how tired I was today reading all these books, the entire Teen Titans could have shown up in a page and I might not have noticed them. So
to be fair, I don't know if I'd recognize half the Teen Titans at the moment.
Well, I'm in the classic team, but sure, yeah. The current team might be a bit harder anyway. Alright, so you give it 8.5, Connor, what are you giving it?
Probably just an 8.
Yeah, I think an 8's what I'm going to give it as well. It's a fun book. I enjoy reading it. No regrets. There's no reservations with this one like there was with Justice League.
No regrets.
No. Batman Superman issue 19, Jinlin Yang, and a bunch of artists because there's a lot of jumping between various worlds and universes that this Tour IO is set up. So I'm not going to list them all, but this leads to there's a lot more of the real world at the start of this one. We have the miniature Batman and Superman watch the real Batman and Superman get trapped in a crystal by a
in
Tour
the Phantom
IO,
Zone crystal.
in the Phantom Zone crystal, and being heroes, these little Batman and Superman want to save them. So they try to follow IO when he jumps into a movie that he's created, a world that he's created. And it ends up, we go through a couple of different variations. We first end up in a version of Ran where, this is so random, but Alana ends up tagging along and even travels with them to the next one, which was really weird, but okay. they do encounter a Turaio there briefly, but the main encounter, which leads to the big cliffhanger, is they end up in the Old West. They're sort of cowboys, sort of dressed, and they end up in a sort of train heist because there's something weird with this train. A tour's probably on the train. Turns out he's actually the entire front part of the train. He stands up like a transformer at the end of it. But we have this, like, Mask of Zorro-esque vigilante,
El Diablo
running around, who's surprised when he can't shoot Superman, obviously, at one point on top of the train.
Mm-hmm.
But we got the all the fighting here. It's honestly, I don't have a whole lot to say about this book at this point. It's just kind of continuing the silly fun.
So I like that there's two things, is that the Lex from one of the other surviving worlds, right, comes up with a plan that Autor.io is trying to make the perfect story, right? So Lex is able kind of to sell him on the idea, like, well, you could make the world of tomorrow like the perfect one, and everything that's not perfect you throw into the world of night, right? Which is the Batman one. And that's kind of what Lex was already doing. That's why we have that cloning machine.
But just to be clear here, not the Lex from either of those two worlds. This is a third Lex from another world. Yes, that escaped one that got destroyed.
And so that sells Autor.io that's what he's going to do, but he's going to do it his own way. We also find out that he is an alien that basically was taken over by sentient film, if I am reading that correctly.
Basically Superman, because they get a glimpse of it when they're in the Rampart, but when they're in the Old West, Superman intentionally sort of goes tornadoes around him to separate him from the armor. And it turns out the alien inside's actually quite reasonable and thinks what's happening is quite horrible, and he sees the error of the ways and all that. But eventually the armor goes back on him and controls him again. Right. So
But we found out that he's wanted for generations.
Blue Beetle here?
No.
It sounded suspiciously like Blue Beetle just coming in.
It's a little. He is blue though, whatever alien he is. But basically he's like this. Almost he is storytelling, right? That's how I read this as, and he got to the point where movies become a thing, and he completely or stage plays. I'm not exactly.
I think it was movies. It
is movies.
Yeah, because he basically talks about landing on Earth, and he went to watch movies basically, and eventually this whole theater he went to for decades
closed,
shut down, and that's when he kind of ended up with the armor and went down this path. But
in his mania, so it encased him like a suit of armor. This sentient film, and created the Archive of Worlds, and now this is what's leading to that. And the armor takes back over him, and he ends up opening up a demon horde of the apocalypse, which I do love that Yang is playing with different genres, right? We go to Ran, which is straight sci-fi, right? We have Alana with the jetpack and all this. Then they jump into Western with El Diablo, and he looks like Zorro, and there's a train heist, and they're all in Western gear. And now he's opening up clearly horror.
I mean, if they jump again, I imagine El Diablo will probably go with them, because it feels like after having Alana tag along, it feels like whenever they get to the end of the story, having one representative of all these various worlds is maybe probably going to play into whatever happens. So that makes some sense to me.
Genres represented, and at the end here we have an evil-looking Etrigan with a bunch of other demons behind him.
I'm pretty sure there's a man bat behind them.
Yeah, Cthulhu, it looks like too.
It's a Cthulhu, yeah.
Yeah, a whole bunch of scary stuff.
That's a cliffhanger, that's he's bringing the hell creatures to fight them. It's
fun.
All pretty fun stuff. I like that he tries to say to Superman, hey, your world's going to be the good one that'll survive. But Superman's like, yeah, but what happens to the Batman's world then? And when it's like, oh, that's going to go to shit. Why do you care? It's like, well, no, I don't accept that. I can't let another world suffer for our world to prosper. That's just not how he thinks. So it's a good little character beat for Superman.
Right.
And there you go. That's pretty much it.
I'm trying to see who did the arts.
There was a long list when I was looking on League of Comic Geeks. There was a long list. And
Lou Pacino is one. Is Lou Pacino the Rand stuff? I think. No, because that's Lieber. That's clearly Lieber. And then, so Lou Pacino must have done the. I'm gonna guess the Western, if I'm looking at it. And I can't really tell, and I feel bad. But I wish they had put them there, almost as if they're different movies, like the credits. You know what I mean? So that's one negative here. But yeah, you have Emmanuel Lupacino, Steve Lieber, Derek Robinson, and Kyle Hotz.
Yeah.
But no, this is a whole lot of fun. And I really like Yang. Yang takes these these chances with storytelling that I really like. And I hope after this book ends, he has something fun to do. We know Monkey King.
I don't know.
Seated.
Like, if he gets put on another book after this, I'm going to assume the book is ending in about 6 issues time.
But what if it's something that he's with from the beginning, right? Like
sure.
he got how many of New Superman did he go?
18.
There's at least yeah. So who knows? But yeah, I mean, but well, I said that it's not exactly.
Oh no, there was 24
to read every week.
There was 24.
Yeah,
there was a volume 4.
About 2 years.
Yeah, it was 24.
But yeah, it's not like I would recommend it if it wasn't like a big huge week, right? And you have all these other marquee books to read. You know, if I wasn't already enjoying all of this because of movies and the genre play stuff, I probably would have let it fall off.
It is worth saying that, yeah, on a busy week like this one this get left to the end, and it was kind of like, oh, this is definitely the one that feels like it's superfluous to everything else. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I did enjoy it when I read it. It's a good fun time.
Worth noting that obviously it's getting cancelled. That
right.
YouTube probably aren't the only people who feel like that. Like, it's fine, but there's a lot of other books that you'd rather keep up with.
I feel that's most Batman Superman books though, because even I feel like the one pre-Flashpoint, right? That went forever, but it always just kind of meandered. Like, it was never the best thing DC was putting out past a certain point, but it was there.
It hasn't been a notable book since the original Globe stuff.
Right. Because even when they brought in Jay Lee to do it in New 52, it was fine. I
enjoyed it for the Jay Lee art, not for the book itself. Like, not the story, but his art's gorgeous, to be honest.
Yeah. And even here from the start, when it was Williamson, this book started on shaky ground already because it felt like it was a tie into Hell Arisen.
And even after that, it was like, yeah, it's a fun book, but it was never anything special.
No. So it's a shame because I like Yang. I want Yang to be able to tell fun stories like this wherever. So wherever he chooses to do that, I'm going to follow. But yeah. So I'm going to rate this book. I'm going to give this a 7.5.
Yeah, straight 7 for me, I think. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a fun time. But I mean, I hate to say this, but yeah, you can wait for the trade probably and just read it that way. But there you go. So Matt obviously didn't read this next book because he said he didn't read something on the list, and this is the only thing left. So, Batman Reptilian issue 1.
No, there's another thing.
Is there? What's the other thing?
Yeah, there's. I was
called Action Comics.
Yeah, I thought you'd split it up from Superman or something, but
yeah.
Oh, wait, you didn't read Action Comics?
Oh
no, I read Action Comics.
But you just said it was the last book.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, Action Comics wasn't on the list. I just skipped over it because I felt like we did the Superman book. I forgot there was 2.
Yeah. So go ahead, talk about Batman Reptilian.
I guess we'll do Action Comics last then before the Patreon book. Since I skipped over it. See, look, I told you I was tired. Mistakes were going to be made today.
Our assumption was you just wanted to split up from Superman, right?
No, it was next on the list. I just glossed over it. So there you go. All right. Batman Reptilian issue 1, Garth Ennis with Liam Sharp on art. This is the new DC Black Label book, and it's definitely distinct. It looks different. It does not look Liam Sharp art that I've seen before. It looks very different.
Because I just sorry, I didn't read this either because I don't like Ennis. That's not a surprise. I'm on the record of that. Hell, look.
No, I know.
I couldn't even read the Bond book by Ennis, and I love Bond. I've heard Sharp's art in this described as similar to like Dave McKean.
Oh no, I don't like McKean.
Why you say no? Dave McKean's great.
Dave McKean's the one that does the long bat ears, right?
No, you're thinking of Kelly Jones.
That's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Dave McKean did Arkham Asylum.
Oh, well, that's fine then. Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. I will say that the faces aren't always to my liking in this. The faces are a little bit more, I don't know, like Arkham Asylum meets like weird President Mask look. But
as in Point Break President Mask?
Yes, as in the President Mask you wear when you're robbing a bank.
Okay, gotcha.
Especially
Good precedence
Joker
there.
and a couple of other characters. However, the Batman himself, his silhouette, and the cityscape, the rain, the streets, that stuff looks absolutely gorgeous. There's a real mood and atmosphere to this, and it. Yeah, I would say somewhere between Arkham Asylum and like a Behermo art, something in the middle between those two is kind of where you're landing with this.
How much bat penis is there?
No bat dick.
Not enough,
Okay.
I'm assuming.
Gotcha. Okay.
But the story starts. There's the first chunk of it is so this it sounds like a boxer or maybe an MMA fighter who has been got off scot-free as seedy little sleazy lawyer speaking to the press outside the courthouse, talking about how he's innocent, blah blah blah, and it sounded like he was accused of raping someone or two people in particular.
Oh boy.
And Batman, as the lawyer's talking about how this criminal system, this is horrible. They use stuff submitted by the Batman. We have evidence that prove that he's innocent, and it's all coming off very sleazy. And the Batman never shows his face because he's just a shadow at night. And then Batman just walks through the crowd, walks right up to him, and calls the big guy a coward. And it's kind of this big defining moment where he says, "You're a rapist, you're a coward, and you are who you are." And the lawyer's like, "This is an outrage. How dare you talk to my client like that?" Blah blah blah. And eventually, Batman pisses him off so much that he takes a swing. And Batman, you see like there's a panel at the bottom where everything turns red, and it's all pouring rain. This whole thing, there's so much atmosphere. Everything's just in the pouring rain at night. And Batman's walking away from this guy on the ground and just says, "Self-defense," because he did take the swing first. Yeah, there's definitely an Ennis quality to the writing here, which you're either going to love or hate.
This is what I cannot stand.
I'm not anti-Ennis like Connor, but the stuff I've read from Ennis, he's not my kind of writer. Yeah.
He reminds me a lot of Mark Miller.
Yeah, but Mark Miller also surprised you from ever like Supreme is one of the best things I've ever read. Because there's a heart there.
I think I don't have a problem with Ennis's read because I've read some Preacher and it was pretty solid what I read. I think here what's different is that this is not original characters that he's creating. This is Batman. Now that said though, they're kind of just left of what they're supposed to be though, because Alfred's a little bit sassy. The next scene's in the cave and Alfred's kind of
you got me back,
right?
Sassy Alfred, you got me back.
He's been just a little bit sassy, and so on. But anyway, there's another call. The cave looks fantastic, by the way. I was pointing that out in the art. My favorite panel though, of this whole book is after he leaves the cave. There's just a shot of the Batmobile going down a street, and holy crap, this thing is like, set it as your. Someone edit out the speech bubble because there's one little speech bubble. You could put this as your phone background. It's gorgeous.
Why not just try tweeting it sharp and ask for the image without the lettering?
Clean.
Sure, yeah, possible to do that. But it's gorgeous. Like the reflections on the street. The way you've got all the city lights kind of in this dabbed painted style, it looks gorgeous. Batman goes to a bar and basically demands to see whoever I start the crime, sorry. So the thing he hears in the cave is that what two is it? It's Mad Hatter and another one. It's not Riddler and Penguin because Riddler and Penguin are the second two. But two of the Gotham villains have been found almost dead. Not killed, but like torn, like bleeding. They've been attacked by something. And he goes to this bar to try and find one of the henchmen that worked for one of them, or one of the rats, and finds the guy. Again, more gorgeous rooftop stuff with all the lights of the city. Seriously, it's the faces. Like when you see the Joker in a flashback later on, the Joker looks horrible. Like his face is disgusting. But all of the locations and the vistas are stunning. And he's basically threatening this guy off the edge of the roof. And he's asking, like, he wants to know what happened. What happened with this incident? But he's surprised when the guy says, he doesn't say the two names he's expecting. He says Riddler and Scarecrow or whatever. Riddler, Scarecrow, Mad Hatter, and Penguin are the four I think that are involved. But they're in two pairs. And it's two different names. And he's like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, speak. What happened to these two? And it seems that the exact same thing happened to two other villains at the same time. Or together. And is it okay? Someone's attacking the various villains in Gotham. So he ends up telling the story that kind of led to it, where he talks about the villains all getting together. Joker was kind of rallying the crowd a little bit, talking about what to do about Batman, whatever. And it kind of led to this thing where the double crossing was happening, and ultimately leads to this mysterious thing where they all get attacked. And yeah, at the end of the issue is just this guy goes home and he's like terrified. He's in his bed, and because Batman kept repeating, "Remember, Batman never kills." Because the guy's really scared, and he keeps reminding him, "Don't worry, Batman doesn't kill. What you got to be scared of?" But he keeps doing it in a really intimidating way. So the guy's got like really serious problems. So the issue mainly is just teasing that something big is attacking a lot of the villains. So it's setting up the titular Reptilian. Is the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, this is all about the atmosphere. If you're going to get this, it's mostly for the art, which is super like horror, atmospheric. Gotham feels alive and it feels like dense and scary.
I feel like because Sharp was experimenting a lot in the back half of the Green Lantern stuff he did.
Yeah.
Like trying a lot of different styles, and I just went and looked at the preview pages for this, and it seems like some of that has carried across to this. So this is like, it's not exactly the same, but there's a lot of similarities between what he was doing there. It's super interesting to see him doing some just vastly different stuff to what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, the other big plot thing in the issue is when he's telling this backstory about what got all the villains kind of railed up. It sounds like something mentally affected them, where they were at this big meeting, all the various Gotham villains,
mm-hmm.
and they kind of all felt this like tension really suddenly, where they all wanted to pull their guns on each other. All the henchmen pulled their guns on each other. It was like something psychologically like manipulated all of them to feel paranoia and whatever, and anger, whatever you want to call it. But then it went away almost just as quickly. After 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it was, it all just went away, and everyone was just kind of confused. Why did we all just act out like we're ready to go to war? This didn't make any sense.
Ares is involved.
So this presumably is tied to the monster in some way, or something that's going on. But this is partly why this henchman kind of got away from the game. He didn't want to be part of this anymore. It was too scary.
The most interesting thing for me hearing this is, I think before reading this, all of us just assumed Reptilian, we were dealing with Croc. And the way you're describing this sounds like it's not Croc at all.
No, we knew it wasn't Croc.
Did we?
Yeah, it was in the solicit. It was like, this is not Croc, this is a new thing.
Oh, fair enough. I clearly didn't read the solicit.
Yeah, we always knew it wasn't Croc. It was kind of something other than Croc.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm down to read more of it. It was such a nice, enjoyable read because the art's so good, because the atmosphere is so strong. Atmosphere is one of those things where if you can capture the atmosphere, like it goes so far that it's just because it's the same in a movie. If your direction and like art and cinematography is so good, the story can be basic, and I'll just be so into it because I'll be just enriched in what's going on the whole time. Same for a comic, really. I mean, and the story's fine. Like, I'm intrigued. The mystery they're building up with what happened with the villains and it being Batman hunting out this information's cool. It's kind of a weirdly paced issue in the sense that it ends in kind of a downbeat moment, but it kind of fits the somber, moody tone to the whole thing. That it's not just like a big traditional cliffhanger. So, yeah, I like it. I'd give it a solid 8. I mean, the art's not always amazing. Some of the faces, Joker in particular, looks really rough and has that kind of almost like the Rocca kind of sheen to the faces a little bit.
The word I was using when I was reading Green Lantern was rubbery.
A little rubbery, yeah. Which ties into the whole President Mask thing, I suppose. But
yeah, a lot.
Yeah, but so much of the art is good though. It's one of these weird things where the atmosphere in the world they're in like means that it doesn't matter. Like, I'm too busy enjoying the atmosphere of everything. So yeah, take that as what you will. I'm down to read the however many issues of this is, just because it was such a different vibe from everything else. Do you know what? I'm glad it's 6, because if this was only going to be 3 or 4, this would have felt like there wasn't enough story.
I'm pretty sure it's 6.
Yeah. That feels like it's probably paced correctly then. So yes, there's a big gallery at the back of the issue as well for potential covers and like teases of art for the next issue, which I am not looking at properly because I don't want to spoil anything. But I guess they're trying to sell you on the issue. But there you go. That's Batman Reptilian issue 1. Action Comics issue 1032. So, this is continuing with the refugees. Now we now know that one of them, was sent by Mongol to, whether or not she's like, believes this or she's in support of Mongol, it feels more like complete, not brainwashing, but like just to break it down to the point where she's.
It's not. I mean, it is brainwashing, but not exactly how we think. It's just.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. She is mentally conditioned to just accept this abuse, and that's when they tried to take the chains off, she freaked out.
Yeah, which they teased that last issue, but they kind of reiterate it here, where Superman, it feels quite bad that he tried to and doesn't know.
Yeah, the fact that he feels guilt about it is, and this is why I like that Philip Kennedy Johnson having this deep understanding of Clark Kent, right, is that all he wanted to do is help, but then the fact that it made her so much worse. Now he feels bad about it, and not that he pushes it off on Lois, but he tells Lois, "Hey,
you probably know
she's
better
gonna trust
than
you.
me.
Yeah, so let's do what we can to help her." And also that through her going through her exploring of the library of Kandor, right? She's found there was like this ancient Kryptonian colony called the Philosians, and that's where this person might have originated from. So I thought that was pretty good there. I like any kind of ancient Kryptonian.
I thought it was really interesting to see Kara and
Helix.
Was it Helix or just the Fortress in general, whatever, they're like conversing in Kryptonian.
Which I know I could have went and found a cipher, and I was going to. I did not have time today.
I honestly, Matt, I think it's almost healthier that you did not. So
wait, you don't want me to do it? That means I have to do it now.
Yeah. So because obviously Superman asked about the branding, like the House of L symbol being on her hand, and she kind of tells the truth, but also not, in a way. Obviously, she kind of doesn't tell the exact truth because she is kind of programmed to infiltrate in whatever Mongol's plan ultimately is. She does fire off a blast of a type of heat vision. It's not the same as the others, though.
Right, a little bit different. It's kind of similar to John's, which I thought was interesting.
I think it's very telling that we will get to Godzilla in a minute, but not Godzilla's atomic breath. It looks very similar to what this does.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I would say it's kind of similar to when John changed what part of the spectrum he was on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because I read Superman first. This is one of the ones I saved for last as well, and it felt like that ultraviolet vision.
Yeah. But basically, they theorized that because they are, this colony was so ancient that they have kind of evolved a little bit differently. So they're reacting. They're still getting powers from the sun, but it's reacting a little. It's not the exact same as Clark and John and other Kryptonians. But yeah, so Lois shows compassion, makes you feel at home and comfortable. And in the second half of the issue, things take a completely different spin because the artifact is down in Atlantis starts reacting, and there's some obviously debates about what to do with it. And it basically raises a monster from under the ocean, and then it turns out to be multiple monsters because then when we get to the pier later on, there's like, do you know what it is? It's Pacific goddamn Rim. Some of them even look like the kaiju from Pacific Rim.
One of them looks like Godzilla.
That big first one is just Godzilla.
Yeah.
The first one?
I gotta say, Superman fight Godzilla. This book is fantastic.
Yeah, the big one that comes out of the wall with all the symbols on it. It's clearly just meant to be Godzilla. And it has, like I said, the atomic breath and everything.
It looks nothing like Godzilla.
Well, the face is different, but clearly this is meant to be Godzilla. This is the closest they could get to having Godzilla.
Toho has that design on lock, so Sempere had to
I'll
adjust
accept
it
the
a little
atomic
bit.
breath, but there is nothing about how he looks that even remotely looks like Godzilla.
I think it looks
The
like
entire
Godzilla.
shape of it.
He looks like someone who's got like tumors and growth, and but it looks like a sort of deformed human as opposed to anything lizard-like.
What?
I don't know. When
He's got all the
Superman shows
spines
up and
coming out his
punches him,
back, the ridges, you know.
What's
it
tail.
feels like Godzilla.
what Reggies? I'll see Reggies
He's got spikes on his head.
It's
on his
coming out on the
arm.
back of his shoulders. It's coming out of his
Go to the
spine as
page.
well.
Where Superman says, "We'll handle it," and he comes up and he knocks him in the jaw.
No. Before that, I'm talking about when he's coming out the water, like when we're in Atlantis.
And I swear they're getting bigger. That looks like a Godzilla to me. It's very similar to the Dragon Sword.
And,
No.
and
based on
Before that,
Godzilla.
I'm not looking at that page. I'm looking way before that because you said the first one. This is the first one, the very first one we
Oh.
see.
I clearly mean the first one up. Okay.
The first one we see.
The first unfinished one.
The other
sure.
ones, though, are definitely Pacific Rim bad guys,
Wait,
which Warner owns, right?
The bubble, the speed
So-
bubble is because he actually speaks. The monster speaks and says, "We are but whispers within dreams." That's the page I'm looking at. That
Right,
looks
Okay.
the unfinished one, yes.
that looks nothing
Yeah,
like a
Merrick.
Godzilla.
No, but that's Merrick turning into Godzilla.
Yeah, like, am I being stupid here? Clearly, we were
No.
talking about the big thing coming out of the sea that looked exactly
what
like
I
Godzilla.
was.
You said the
Yeah.
first one. That's what I was looking right at the first one.
You're being pedantic right now. I feel. Usually
That's the first
Connor's
one.
job.
It's the first one.
Okay, so
I
let's
feel like
just
the
say,
description was clear enough. But yes,
yeah.
Godzilla.
So I get Superman punching Godzilla here,
Yeah.
and then he flies down into him, and then it's not Godzilla at all. It becomes this weird temple with like Lovecraftian themes, and there's a Superman kind of Kryptonian symbol on there.
Very Kingdom Come-esque, actually.
Yeah, Kingdom Come Superman. But just the whole idea that like there's a god that is dreaming, and that now he's aware that we know that he's dreaming. That brings about the end of the world. That's Cthulhu, right? Like that's Lovecraftian mythos. So now we have Philip Kennedy Johnson pulling that in to Superman, which I never thought I would ever need, right? But the fact here that then Superman puts this all together because he's like, I've seen these markings before, and whatever this is talking to him, and they tell the story of one who is gone but must one day return, and this is where it got really Lovecraft to me. And it says, "He awaits your coming, Superman of Earth. Few will play a greater role in his story as you." And that's when he sees the Kingdom Come S. And he goes, "I don't know what any of that means, but I know this is just an illusion." And then he freezes Godzilla from the inside. And it pretty damn cool. But yeah, and then we end up getting an international incident between Steve Trevor coming down on a helicopter ladder, which is pretty cool, and arguing with Aquaman about basically, "You're gonna turn that over to us," and Aquaman's like, "We don't have to do anything." And yeah, which leaves Superman distinctly in the middle here, because he doesn't want the U.S. to go to war with Atlantis. We've already done that, you know.
I'm digging this look for Steve Trevor when he's coming down
Yes.
on the rope ladder from the chopper with the goat. I'm like, Special Agent Steve Trevor is something that we haven't had in a while, and I
No.
think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I like that he is the liaison to the Justice League, right? Deep down. So, of course, he's going to go down to talk to Arthur. And be like, "Hey, you need to turn that over because whatever that was just turned monsters to come and attack one of our cities." You know?
Yeah.
But I also feel like the Atlanteans now, they're under whatever, no, I don't want to say a spell, but whatever the stone's doing, they're definitely been affected by it.
Oh yeah,
So-
100%.
But yeah, a lot of fun stuff coming in here. Sempere's art is top notch. Like I feel like
This is, especially the back half of this issue, where
Uh-huh.
we're playing with kaiju, is where he excels.
yes. But I would say that in the front half too, like the scene with Kara and Keelix and just the way all that looks, like I just feel it all looks very nice. I think that's a lot of the colorists too doing a lot of that because you have all the blues and the pinks and the purples all going off of each other, and it's a real nice image. I like his Kara.
Yeah, Adriano Lucas doing the colors.
Yeah, so the Kara looks good here too. But yeah, and his Superman, it just looks classic. We didn't even talk about the Batman. Did we talk about the Batman section?
No, we
Or
brushed over the Batman
caught up?
section.
This is
we
really
jumped straight to Kaiju.
gotcha. This was really the only part that took a step back for me, and I feel like something gets lost in the storytelling here, where Superman goes to Gotham to basically have Batman to pick Batman's brain on what he thinks this stuff is about the refugees, and there's this whole section that if I'm reading it left to right flows, but like he says if New Mongol can subjugate Kryptonians, that would suggest they don't have your abilities. And then Batman says, why not? So is he asking the question? Why wouldn't they have the abilities? I feel like there's a speech bubble missing here on Superman.
No, I think it's a continuation. I think it's meant to be. It's just showing the pause, like balancing. That would suggest they don't have your abilities, and then pause. Like, why not? Like, why don't they? They just want to. I think it's just about this in a second panel that makes it feel.
Then he thinks it out and then says, "Well, one of them just kind of experienced their abilities seemingly for the first time." So there's still clearly a reaction happening eventually, but it's not quite the same thing.
Gotcha. That was the only thing that I felt like there was a disconnect between the storytelling, but I guess if you guys didn't have an issue with it, that's just me reading, But it just felt like there was something missing, like the why not was just in a weird spot, I guess, too. But that's a really cool image of Batman, right?
I think it's because typically, if that had just been all in the same speech bubble, and after it doesn't have your abilities, it was just a comma, and then why not?
Right.
You wouldn't have even thought twice about it. So I will say there is arguably a problem that there is. It's not quite as clear as it could be. Mm-hmm. Even though me and Pete presumably read it as intended, I can definitely see where the confusion comes from.
Right. And so that's really the only main criticism I have for this issue. Like I feel like Kennedy Johnson's hitting Philip Kennedy Johnson, say his full name, is really hitting his stride on Superman with action right now. And we barely scraped the surface of it. So I'm here for this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the kaiju stuff is mostly fun. It's the art's good. The general thing, it does feel a little bit random that this artifact's creating monsters. It's kind of a little bit comic booky in a weird way, where Philip Kennedy Johnson's stuff up until now has felt more grounded in what it's trying to say about the character, as opposed to random comic book thing to fight. Everything's felt like it sort of fell into it. That said, we don't necessarily have the overall context yet for why this artifact exists, where it comes from, or why it's doing what it's doing.
Yeah, we know it's older than Atlantis, based off of what Volko and Merrick were talking about. Yeah. So it's been around for a while, and who knows what this is. But again, I was getting big Lovecraftian vibes just based off of some of the discussion here.
I'm getting, Johnson loves his fantasy stuff. He did the Last God. I'm getting vibes of that coming in. Like, okay, he's gonna start playing with some other ideas, not just core superhero stuff as well.
Right.
Yeah. All right, we give it a Matt.
This is a 9.5.
Huh?
Wow. 8.5. But I thought it was great.
Yeah, I will go with the 8.5 as well. I think I'm agreeing with that. All right. Carter's got a Patreon book. Everyone to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. One of the higher tiers, you can make myself a Connor read a book, and he's going to be talking about Harley Quinn issue 3.
Yes, even though 4 is out this week, it is 3 I am talking about.
Yes.
Just to clear up any confusion for anyone who might be just thinking I'm talking about the new issue.
You let me know when the Rosmo art's done, and then I'll start picking up this book, because Stephanie Phillips tweeted a picture of her lacing up her skates to go play hockey.
Well, I am sure she's extremely cool.
Yes, so I want to support her.
I don't think I could recommend this book even without the Rosmo art that much. I think it's pretty bland. Like, I thought the first issue I liked in spite of the Rosmo. I really liked the writing that came through. Since then, it's kind of like it's a bit bland, honestly. It's not that hot. Like Harley's setting up a support group for people who used to be like working for homicidal clowns.
Yeah.
Yes. And so she's got the one guy, Kevin, who's been in the last couple of issues, and they're kind of waiting for other people to show up. And there's a whole thing of, oh, no one's going to show, but eventually, 4 or 5 of them do. And it's a bit like, a bit like an AA meeting. They go around, start telling a couple of stories about, what it was like. But then one of them was like, no, we were all terrible people. There's all this self-guilt. But one of the people there is actually a plant working for Hugo Strange, who is his plan is to cure all the clown craziness because they can't be saved, they can't be taught through with therapy. They have to be fixed, like biologically, physically, chemically, because he's got some serum that he's working on that is injecting people with to try and, again, quote unquote, fix them in a physical way rather than mental. And him be, the plant being there, trying to get them, and the reinforcements show up. They're trying to capture Harley and the others for more subjects for Hugo. Harley gets away, a little bit of a chase action sequence. She gets down to the sewer and runs into Solomon Grundy, and that's kind of the end of the issue there with that stuff. Plot wise, there's really not a lot in this. There's literally like you can break down to there's an opening sequence of a couple of pages with Hugo Strange doing his experiments. Then you have the meeting, which flows directly into the chase as Harley is trying to run away from them, and that's it. And then she goes down, escapes and goes into the sewer. The plot is non-existent, which would be fine if it was really compelling, bouncing around the writing, really strong dialogue. But I'm not finding it is. I'm finding it's okay. It's by the numbers. It doesn't have as distinct a voice as that first issue did, and by the sounds of it, the Future State issues had a pretty distinct voice as well. This is just okay, and then on top of that, you got to put up with Rosmo art, which just makes everything more miserable.
Yeah,
it's really not good.
That said, I'm sure there's Rosmo art, like the Batman Shadow book. It didn't bother me as much, or even in Martian Manhunter. But I just, man.
It's when it's just normal people, right?
Yeah, like when there's not the reason for the style tweak, Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a real shame, this book. I don't think the writing's terrible. I just don't think it's anything good. I think it's kind of bland.
Gotcha.
And it's for me the weakest Harley book in years, just on the writing alone. Not even taking into consideration the art. So overall, I'm going to give it like a 4, because average writing, below average art. I'm going to pull it down to a 4.
All right. Well, that'll take us on to the final part of the show, which is where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books. And I am totally running on fumes at this point, so luckily all this speech is just ingrained into my brain. Starting with panel / moment, Matt, what you got?
I'd be remiss if it wasn't Superman punching a Godzilla-esque kaiju square in the jaw in Action Comics 1032.
Connor?
That's real good, and I definitely considered that. I'm going to go with a different moment from Action Comics. It's where there's all these people are enslaving her. Does it matter if it's a trap? And then it, close up on the eyes, like no, it does not. Because again, Johnson gets Superman.
Yep.
I'm actually going to just go with the panel from Batman Reptilian with the Gotham City street and the Batmobile going down it. As soon as I saw that panel, I knew it was winning this week for me.
He's waiting for the clean version to make it his phone background.
It was gorgeous. So it's just for art alone. There's no dramatic reason, the story reason for that moment. It's just an art thing.
Sometimes the heart wants what the heart wants.
That's why Matt picked Superman punching a kaiju.
Yeah. I mean, if it was actually Godzilla, Superman wouldn't have won so easily. I'll just throw that out there.
I'm not getting baited into this again. Not again.
I mean, I'm not going to necessarily say that Superman wouldn't win eventually, but You know, because I mean, he's better than Kong, obviously.
Kong never tapped. I'm just saying.
He didn't need to tap. He's about to get choked out. Godzilla showed him mercy. So
tap.
favorite cover of the week. I'll jump in first here. I will say the Reptilian cover is kind of neat, the close up of the eye, but as is the main cover for Infinite Frontier, it's very pretty. But my pick is the Behermo variant for Detective Comics.
That is real nice.
It's just, it's Batman on his knees in pain with just the big worth. Like, you don't even see it. He goes up to his chest because he's like going off page because he's just standing tall above Batman.
It's got the big W's, you know it's worth.
Yes. And not Wayne. Just in case anyone
obviously that would be weird.
All right, hell, Superman fought Clark Kent in Superman 3. There's no reason why Batman can't fight Bruce Wayne at some point. All right, Connor.
Honestly, it's tough. There's a lot of good covers. I'll shout out to the main action, the anime one. It's kind of fun. The two that it really comes down to, though, the Wonder Woman variant, the Middleton, and then the
looks
Robin
like Minerva,
variant. Right? Yeah.
What was the second one?
The Robin variant, the Manipul. It's so good. I think I'm gonna have to go with that one.
You took mine. So yeah, I wanted to bring up the Robin variant because that's great. I also like the Superman variant. I mean, the Pride one's nice too, but then there's the one with John and Superman. There, it looks like a Norman Rockwell painting. That one's nice. I also like the Checkmate cover just because it looks like the teaser poster for a Checkmate movie, but man, I guess I'll just go with the Robin variant too because it's Manipul, drawing Connor Hawk, and I can't not. Plays with a negative space, right?
It's just nice.
You're allowed to have the same one. There's no rule.
I know, but I thought I'm not going to say anything about it, and then of course Connor.
I'm sorry, we have very similar taste when it comes to cover art.
I know. It's Manipul. What are you going to do?
All right, best art, Connor.
Oh, that's actually. I don't really have a standout. I don't think. I'll probably go with action. I think Sempere does a real good job. Yeah.
Matt.
So this one's very, very tough because Melnikov and Robin, right? You got Sempere in action. You got Xermanico for Infinite Frontier. Maleev for Checkmate. Where do I go? But there's one
Pete's got to throw Sharp into all that as well.
Yeah. So, I put it over at the top of the show. If Xermanico could draw everything, I'd be happy. So I'm going to go with Infinite Frontier.
Okay. I think, as much as I praised a lot of what Sharp did in Reptilian, because I don't like the faces, I don't think I can really give it to it. I can't. Even though you
go with Maleev then, yeah?
Even though the unique vibe is very special. Well, I'd say it's between Maleev and Xermanico. Oh no, Bogdanovic, really good.
Yeah, that's someone I left off too by accident. Bogdanovic is solid. Marquez.
That stupid gun took him off out of the running this week.
Do you know what? I enjoyed that so much. I'm going to pick Bogdanovic for Detective Comics.
I'm really surprised you didn't make that your moment, Pete. Just to. I mean, if you're more of an Ennis, yeah, you would have. But yeah, shoot. All right.
I've been up for 21 hours. I don't have the capacity to remember what we said 2 hours ago.
Connor, you ready to talk hockey for about 5 minutes before we do
I'd love to. I mean, look, it sucks that we lost. Sucks that we went out.
It's not happening.
Hard to argue with the fact that
we're on to the top 5 books. I'm just going to mute you two bastards, and I'll just do my own.
Real quick, Connor, I just read on Twitter as you were talking. Alex Martinez.
Yeah,
you saw it too.
Yeah, broken foot the entire postseason. Bloody hell.
Entire. Crazy.
Yeah. My favorite aspect ratio is 2.40 to 1 because it's the most cinematic one. But you can't beat a good old 185 to 1. That's why Spielberg put it for Jurassic Park because of the height of the dinosaurs. But
I like 619. That's my favorite.
That's not a real aspect ratio. I'm
All right,
upset.
my top 5 of the week.
To
You
be
guys
fair,
ready?
it could be.
It could be. Well, who says it can't?
What's your top 5?
Okay, number 1 is Action Comics. Number 2 is Infinite Frontier. Number 3 is Robin. Number 4 is what else did I read? There's too much. Number 4. I said Infinite Frontier. Number 4 is Checkmate. Number 5 is Detective Comics. Then Checkmate. Boom.
Connor?
That was not slick enough to have a boom at the end.
Yeah, but that's why I did it, because it's funny.
I'll go with Action. Then Detective. Then Robin. Then I guess Infinite Frontier. Then probably Superman out of the two.
All right. I'll go Infinite Frontier at number 1. Action Comics number 2. Detective Comics number 3. Checkmate issue 4. And then number 5, we'll go with, I don't remember what I really rated anything. So I'll put Reptilian just a bit higher above Robin. So.
Pete became me for a hot second, going like, I don't remember numbers. I'm gonna wing it.
Look,
I'm hearing excuses.
Honestly, I expected to make way more mistakes today than I actually did. So you know what?
You forgot an entire book.
The biggest
mistake. Just one.
Yeah, the best book.
Second best, but Infinite Frontier was a bit better.
Me and Matt both put Action, so we outweigh you.
Again, because
I'm pretty sure Matt outweighs me on his own, car. You don't have to add yourself into this.
I do, but I'm losing weight. Hit that gym 6 times a week. Hooey, I feel good sometimes. Most of the time I want to die, but
oh dear. I mean, I'd like to think both of you combined outweigh me. I think I'd feel quite bad if you didn't.
How do you lead the entire NHL in shot blocks with a broken foot?
You're Alec Martinez.
I will tell you all what's coming next week. If I just in case I'm going to mute those two.
Oh my god, such a short week next week. Right? I love it. Oh wait, there's a 100-page book.
I think he's here, even if he hasn't muted it. So
oh my god, I've not muted it. All right, coming next week, there's 3 books that we're covering. One is Catwoman Annual Issue 1, which is cool. We have Green Arrow, sorry, not Green Lantern. Green Arrow 80th Anniversary, 100-page, super spectacular. And we also have Infinite Frontier Secret Files Issue 1, which Connor assures me is important stuff, even though it was already published digitally.
When I say important stuff, this is the one that we were excited for at the time, because this is got the framing device of Bones, and it's the files of all the people who are going to be involved.
Oh, and Pete's going to love it, because
look, there's Williamson stories in there. There's Stephanie Phillips. There's Dan Waters got stories in this. So it's like,
I mean, honestly, it's a good week to throw these 2 big books at me because there's nothing else. So
just Patreon books, right?
So yeah, just a couple of Patreon books. So I may as well read them. So I'm game.
There's
DC.
also a Teen Titans Academy yearbook / annual that no one's going to read, but it's out.
Yes. None of us are going to be reading that, but we got 3 other books. And but 2 of them are really big, so the time will be filled quite right. It'll be a full episode. You won't even notice the difference. So there you go. That's what's coming next week. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Bordenau, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley. Not Stanley!
Dan Lee!
They are supporters of patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can, of course, go over there yourself and support us for as little as $1 per month. Get some bonuses. In particular, at the $5 tier, you get the podcast a day early. So go and have a look and see if you're interested.
Do you know what else they support, Pete? The Golden Knights.
Go Knights, go!
Okay, and now that I've muted those 2, thank you very much for joining us on Comics from the Multiverse. We appreciate it. keep reading DC Comics. You can, of course, like and subscribe, and you can do all the YouTube stuff. It helps out a lot. Rate the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. We always appreciate it. But mostly just thank you for listening. And screw these two, who, by the way, are talking the entire time I'm doing this, talking about hockey, and I don't give a shit because I'm ready to go to bed. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and always remember to never get lost in the Speed Force. No last minute line from Matt this week because he's muted because he's misbehaving.